Three young men appear and are told that a real adventure needs three things: endless energy for any task, the determination to stick to their intentions, and a sincere heart that honors their ancestors. Back with his friends, he suggests searching the remains, but a fight breaks out when he starts telling them what to do. Soon we learn what skill it means. In short, this world holds a blessing ceremony even orphans like these boys can receive after turning 14. Adult men consider one of the defining traits of human nature. Their only hope was to escape the terrible situation. They presented the kingdom of Centicillion, which flourished 5 years ago. Someone noted that this year's ceremony was especially elegant and vibrant. The first boy, Credron, received his personal frying pan, a top-quality item attuned to the great sage's magic. The girl Zeta received a unique double gift, the power of sacred healing water, and the third child, Liber, was given the skill of bravery that when used wisely proves indispensable. A great gift. The power given to poor people to fight terrifying monsters and demons even changed the fate of one grandfather. Rod believes he will become the world's greatest wizard, and a girl inspires him to achieve it. The grandfather tells her to return to the church because her powers come from a blessed saint, and she follows his advice. Meanwhile, Liver says he has already grown up. God's blessings bring responsibility for those who receive them, and an elder tells the children, who accept the news with joy and notice a fourth companion among them. This was Ruia, who had no skills, so the children ignored her. The child was distraught and could not understand why she alone was left without an ability. Someone comforted Rui, reminding her she was not the only one who failed to show a gift. At this year's ceremony, 4 other participants stood beside her, but the outcome was unprecedented. It is unprecedented that 3 people acquired skills of the highest level at once, but Rufia cannot understand why he received these abilities and believes it is God's will. His father warned him not to despair and told him to return to normal life, because that is how ordinary people live. If you understood him, follow his advice. Suddenly, strangers summoned the young man. Friends reassure him, telling him they care. Though they are children, they made it to this day through mutual support. Believe them, even though they insist everything has changed. The kids laughed, saying the boys will be successful soon, and that this boy has to go look for treasure. They walked away from him, still laughing, and the child fell into even deeper despair. He was gradually pushed out. The apostle gives him one last piece of advice. Many people with mediocre ambitions think leveling up without the necessary skills is pointless. Rui dismisses this as fantasy, and his grandfather insists fighting and killing monsters for experience without proper skill is utterly foolish. Asserting that being different is not a sin, he decisively pushes the boy toward going into the forest hoping to gain new strength, but instead becoming the prey of demons is recklessness fit only for naive fools. His will shows that no one would grieve, even if he died, and the world would lose nothing. The pitiful orphan will change his life if he can master this gift during the blessing ceremony. Rivia is sure he has already lost the only bet he ever made. Remember, it looks like Zeta and Kridrat hit the jackpot, and although he truly feels happy for these so-called friends, he won't say it out loud and keeps it to himself because after events like this, he finds it hard to feel real happiness. He doesn't hold back his tears. His emotions come out like a liquid from the soul. Dark thoughts cloud the young man's mind, and he cannot grasp why life dealt him this fate. Eventually, he stops having tantrums, keeps his cool, and calmly starts planning his future. Now faced with how to rebuild his life, he realizes that staying alone as before will probably end in failure, and after weighing steps to avoid this, he sees he must jump back into the game and take risks in a new venture. No one knew how many hundreds of thousands of people without the proper skills took on the challenge and failed. The chance of that happening in his current position was extremely low. They say the level you reach growing up in the city is just the first, but that probably does not matter much. From that moment on, to survive and feel even a small victory, the boy realizes he has no other choice. Family, wealth, friends. Someone with nothing to lose can still be remarkably resourceful. He defeated his first monster. Rua thinks this is incredible, but he is sure he will beat similar enemies many more times. Even the tiniest hair, which looked harmless, managed to wound him. Bleeding started again as fear took hold. He ran every day and kept getting new injuries. There were no serious wounds, but the many scratches showed the danger, and that if it kept up, the consequences could be severe. In the end, everything seems meaningless, which is how a child frames the question, and people without the necessary skills try to reach a higher level, but their attempts end badly, and they end up with malto def. So for someone with it, living an ordinary life is best. A person who does not understand their situation may dream, but when they face reality, they see only that. And at the end of the road, only level 1 remains, a person without skills or companions. Turn back now. It's a real chance to survive. Knowing his death was inevitable, whatever path he took, the boy moved forward with calm confidence. In the heart of the forest, a majestic blue dragon crossed his path. Unaware of the fear this creature brings, he moves forward without knowing why. Rumors and legends say this dragon ended the lives of the bravest adventurers and instantly destroyed countless towns and villages. Not sure what to do next, he has accepted that his death is imminent and unavoidable. A voice came from nowhere, and a dragon appeared before him. He thought he heard the voice of the legendary creature. The dragon told of its courage, how, guided by the will of heaven, it boldly descended to earth without expecting to meet such an unusual sight. The dragon insists the boy is wrong. He is not an ordinary dragon, but a true dragon, defined by dragon power. After telling the young man that his inevitable fate had changed his path, influenced heaven's will, and bound them together, he asked what the young man wanted for the future. The young man does not understand what that means. The dragon says that no matter what the boy wants, a true wish can only come true through his own effort. The boy must act until a sincere, deep longing rises in him and he reaches for it himself, because neither heaven nor the gods will give him anything without his involvement. Then the dragon asks again what the child wants. Confused, he cannot tell what is happening. Distrustful of the winged creature, he still dares to express his desires openly. When the dragon heard the answer, he laughed and said they could make a deal. But there was one condition. I have an incredible power even though I lack the skills God would have given me. For him, that is no problem. The boy asks if he can pass it to you. He said that neither heaven nor earth will give him what he seeks, so the boy must grasp and nurture his desire himself. All he can do is help the child gain what they strive for and avoid excess. He asks if it's really true, whether it's heaven's will, and how that can be. The dragon replies that he will explain everything briefly. At Serpent Dragon Con, Umanasi becomes a sinister mentor to the boy, toughening him with merciless beatings. Even if the boy is exhausted, it does not scare me. Years of tireless training passed, and Ruya matured. Through it all, time passed unnoticed. One of the students approached the teacher to ask him to repeat the exercise, but the mentor firmly said his time was up and advised the student to check his staff. Ruis is introduced and stands out for his exceptional qualities. A young man is convinced he has no talents or skills and must train harder, while the dragon points out several important things. People cannot reach a level above 90. He doesn't believe him and asks if it's all because he trained with him. The dragon answered with a single sentence. The dragon serpent had a level cap of 10 million, and teaming up with it only increased his power. This was the perfect time to stay in the area since the boy still had not fully realized the benefits that awaited him. He dreamed of gaining enough strength to overcome his lack of skills and maybe get closer to his goal. The teacher taunts that the boy will soon cry from his memories, but the boy says he is just recalling his real hellish experience. We sincerely thank you for watching. Bowing to the dragon, he receives its final farewell. The young man developed and mastered the strength he gained himself, and freethinkers noted that no one had given him anything. As for the gift itself, let it stay between us. The students say goodbye to one another on this wonderful day. Rock has leveled up, and now it's time to go and grant the boy's request. The teacher took flight and disappeared, and the boy, who couldn't hide his hope, asked if they would meet again, and the dragon serpent replied that if fate decided so, they would certainly meet. For 5 years it felt like a dream, when every moment, including him, felt completely real. A silhouette appeared behind him, and he saw a crowd of moons spread out before him. Angered by the goblin's recklessness, he turned to strike them because they were preventing him from enjoying his memories. Once again, he could not hold back when the goblin crumbled into tiny pieces. No bodies were left, and they did not twitch. Around level 10,000, absolute chaos reigned. After defeating the goblins, he paused to decide his next move. Relentless training did more than build his strength, and it cleansed his soul of the lingering hurts from Australia. During training, he told himself that if he gained power and reached a new level, he would laugh at the friends who had betrayed him, but over time his desire for revenge faded. He risked his life to the limit and all his efforts were in vain, but it could not go on like that. He remembered how small he was when he turned 5. He had to put his plan into action again. Giving up his exceptional skills, he could still make ends meet with decent jobs. Walking through the mountains, he softly hummed a tune that unexpectedly caught his attention. The man who warned him said traveling through this area alone could be truly dangerous. I suspected they were mountain bandits, but they offered to accompany him so he could see everything for himself. If they are not using force to take his things, their real target is the boy himself. He is asked directly whether they kidnap people. The answer is that such words dishonor them, since these men are ordinary, friendly people, though a bit dissolute. If he has any useful skills, the bandits quickly scanned the area and realized the slaver would pay well for such a prize. His lies don't matter to the robbers, who only want money. He stresses they are powerless, and people already seem to call him Ink Source. Shocked, he killed him with his own hands, convinced the boy had something. Progenies is convinced this frying pan is perfect for unexpected strikes. It is truly unmatched. The man decides to kill him because he will not become a simple commodity. He realizes that even after their comrade's death, the bandits still enjoy top-quality loot, revealing their madness. They begin their actions. Within seconds, the bandits launch their ruthless attack. The neighborhood is filled with bodies. The bandit begs the hero for mercy, but the hero refuses, knowing that sparing criminals will only let them keep killing and trafficking people as they already have. He does not seem like a ruthless man indifferent to killers. Instead of spending days trying to pull him out of this unresponsive state and make him human, it is far more sensible to kill him immediately. Suddenly, someone starts calling. The tape shows that while he was heading to Lu, that guy wiped out everyone, calling his power mighty while not realizing it is actually. At first, everyone assumes he has a flawless ability to amplify, but the proteinist firmly denies he has that power. He can boost strength by 10% and wants to join. The protagonist was surprised that even with a frying pan, he still wanders the mountains as an unofficial lawman, and although he thinks himself chosen, someone else does not share that belief. Power should be shared with others, not kept for oneself. Yet the man, though he has this ability, uses it only for his own gain. Beyond that, he is actively trying to hurt others. Bryken sharply insults this man, but protagonist calmly accepts his offer to test strength. A boy lifts it from the ground, though he is 1/5 the size of the object, and holds it with one hand. Instead of putting him down, he carries him alive. The boy notices something. A tiny man appeared and immediately ran up to him. The boy asked, "Are you the slave trader who taught people to work with these bricks?" About the guards, the man firmly denied the accusations, saying he first met them on the road while transporting cargo. As the shop prepares to close today, the man confidently shows his strength and suggests our hero could be useful. As payment, he promises the boy 3 times what he owed for those buns. Seeing Rumi's strength, he offers to be his partner. Smack continued, praising the excellent business his conversation partner runs, and noted that his profession was once ranked 16th among the most desirable. Taking an interest in finances, he suggested paying salaries in cash. Having killed him, only a wet stain remains, and this is surely done for the good of the world and its inhabitants. He starts knocking on the carriage door, loudly warning anyone inside to be ready to run. A little girl among the passers-by appeared to be a kidnapping victim. The Kingdom of Centicilium, Shimano Rufashin Center. A girl appears on screen whose skills will soon improve. They ask what she wants, and people who seem friendly promise to help pick new clothes. Panic fills her, as endless choices open up and she has no idea where to start. It's her first time in such an elegant shop, so feeling unsure, she asks the main character for help. Sitting on a bench, he tried to stay calm but felt only irritation instead of real enthusiasm. It was almost predictable in this city. Now the girl admitted she would do anything if he took her out of this place. She checks if she is truly ready to take any action. For example, I suggest returning to her home region, which clearly surprised the girl. He openly admits to her that another blessing ceremony took place. A strange, tense mood settled over the village. And one night while she slept, she was suddenly attacked. She realizes she has fallen victim to robot traffickers. They say that for a young girl with such a rare skill is priceless. The heroine wondered how the slavers had found out about it. Rumors about her spread through the village and eventually reached the robbers. The child refused to go home or watch the video again. Gently taking her into his arms, he assured her they would soon head to the designated spot. He had dreamed of becoming an adventurer, but a string of events brought them here, and he wondered if it was really the right decision. The gift from Teacher's Bag and Snake was the Golden Knight, and he thought about what it meant. She thanked him, but he still did not understand why she gave herself so completely to her feelings, and they were now in the capital of Centikilia. Kyle asked with interest what the large building on the floating island was, and he was told it was a castle. The girl immediately guessed the king lived there. He invited them in, but the little girl was terrified by the horrible sight before her. Londiet, the head of the Adventurers Guild, said the girl was not suitable because she was afraid, while the young man next to her showed strong determination. He admits that 5 years ago, when he was near her, he felt completely numb, and those words immediately bring back memories for the girl. The main character called the girl Aunt, but never insulted her or called her ugly like others, and asked with care how the rest of the group were doing. Told him they are now actively recruiting people with unique abilities. He said this is a typical situation for the church, which still remains a small group without new members. He explains that he chose independent training so anyone, even without special skills, could confidently set out on an adventure. Always ready to lend a hand, he ends up in trouble. The girl also started asking questions. She remembered Mr. Rio as unpredictable. He saved her when criminals kidnapped the girl and proved to be an extraordinary man who promised unforgettable adventures. That is how the child saw it. The childhood friend shrugs off the events, smiling and saying the boy is his real friend. Asks him to repeat the deeds typical of every true adventurer. Londet immediately accepted him into the ranks of true adventurers because of his persuasive words. He was surprised to find no sign of any skill among all the items, and the girl laughed and said she had been with him countless times during training. The story begins with the hero meeting her. Soon a slave trader and his men attack, and he kills them immediately. The knight was on his side, because murders with bare hands almost never happen outside the city. Slave traders hide an item among their goods that could prove extremely useful. The protagonist handed it over. Slave trade invoices, copies of contracts, and even records of clients' habits. The girl bravely stood up to him, even though he had already taken another life. Londet hands over the tiniest, most dramatic object because he sees the other handles it skillfully. Guild card with all the information needed for registration. He smeared his blood on a special object. A character profile for Rai appeared on the screen, surprising him because he was only level 70. The boy will come back soon, because he has already left. Check his stats and relax, they are now on your screen. He reflects on why the level turned out this way. Londet said one of the works mentioned the possibility of reaching a maximum level of 99, but she had never encountered such a person in real life. The hero earns a new rank at level 50, but reaching level 60 makes them a true legend. Simply put, the map is not designed to show levels above 99, so it only displays the last 2 digits. The main character reached an incredible level, 8347,907, finished. The night when order reigned was suddenly cut short because of that tiny detail. She insists on being taken there because she is eager to work. She completed the initiation and became a genuine, mature person, so there is no reason to refuse, even under the guild's rules. Complete the registration process with the student. The knight turned to her and asked if she was ready, like a skilled adventuress, to use the skull that had already brought her many rewards. One character asks if they can just not show it, and the woman quickly replies that the sight is already crude. He knew the task would be very hard for the girl, but at that moment she called out that she was ready to do it. Joining Ryo-san as an adventurer, she will show no hint of doubt in her resolve. Nate praised her answer and handed her a map that clearly showed where the knife was. While trying to open a jar, the girl cut her hand. The screen displays a portrait of the girl and reveals details of her character. We learn that her name is not understanding the alchemical king skill. Low Knight panicked and immediately searched the skill list. This was the highest level of alchemy, the SSS rank, but no AM never mastered it. A top-class craft complex that combined the functions of a blender, a blacksmith, and a mechanic. Even a single alchemist could drive an entire city's prices sky high. Lovenite now felt real satisfaction at that prospect. Everyone was convinced the frying pan was extraordinary, but its reaction had already confirmed it. Finds out that a real uproar has swept Gnome's homeland and thinks of herself as a true treasure, since with the arrival of such a frying pan, everyone will surely lose their heads. Suddenly she realizes this is exactly how things turned out for you. She loudly announces that she wants to be with Rudy only, like Anna, and to trust everyone completely. A growing distrust of others consumed him and destroyed all his previous personal relationships. The young man can come to her aid and he will not refuse. The moment someone spoke, Mei Xiao, a master of the ghost hand skill, offered friendship to a girl, convinced they could reach higher ranks together. Calling her sweet, he said that together they could create a real day and night for the Phantom and that no better pair could be wished for. Drives off the brazen man, saying she knows full well he wants to be near Olma. Rage took him, and after calling the protagonist trash with contempt, he lunged at him to kill him. Legal self-defense is declared effective tonight. He used to boast about his ghostly hands, but something happened to them. A few minutes later, Rue and Gnome headed southeast out of town along their planned route. She noted how skillfully he had handled that man and suddenly said she had fallen in love with him again. The confession made a strong impression on the protagonist. He worried he might have offended the man, but Laudnit reassured him that the man was already ruined and would soon be finished off. Meanwhile, no one stopped admiring Protagon. Officials announced the start of training for recruits to collect medicinal plants. She asked her hens if they wanted to gather medicinal herbs, and they immediately said they would gladly try them. I called them tender pink newborns, just born. He relentlessly drilled into them every detail of adventuring, not giving them a minute's rest. Every weekend, Blood forced them to eat black seaweed, and so their thrilling journey began. A few minutes later, as the girl pointed out that even experienced gatherers can make mistakes and accidentally put the wrong specimen in their basket, Rio had already finished collecting and had placed a rare, high-quality medicinal herb in it that did not grow here, most likely using his abilities, but the girl refused to admit it since they had just been caught. Everything was organized down to the smallest detail, which impressed Rod Knight. His charge said the training took place in the mountains, and she called him a true savage. She said she had fully completed all the work assigned to her. She genuinely respects the main character, calling him incredible for gathering all the plants on his own. The task finished sooner than expected. The group planned to return home, but Laudnate announced they would explore the area instead. The part of this dimension you may not step on. During their training, the guys decided to join an expedition with Laudnite plan, since they needed to learn from every experience to become true adventurers. They noticed the narrator begin to tremble as a thin mist slowly spread around him. No doubt something extraordinary awaits us. The knight kept warning that if they lost their way, they would have to say goodbye to life. The Adventurers Guild of the Kingdom of Centralia declared a certain area strictly off-limits, a place no one should ever set foot in. This place is called the Zone of Evil Spirits. What is the name of the person patiently waiting for the book? The Gorgi are building a protective barrier and defending with all their strength. Half this area is already overrun by evil spirits. As Landit warned, anyone who slips in here carelessly will end up in a deadly chase. The adventurers began invading a forbidden area where no one should ever set foot. They doubted they were really outside the protective barrier. From his point of view, a hero like him could not have a friend who lacked the necessary skills. That was a real disgrace. Besides, that guy knows our squirrel. Says now is the perfect time to introduce them to her. Amplifies sound. With this ability, even faint whispers become clear, and if a bodiless spirit makes no sound, something still responds. To the boy's surprise, the ability proves passive. The girl is puzzled that such an exceptional woman has non-violent magic. Londit is displeased by those comments about her. Time and again she used her magic to save herself from certain death. Adventures taught her to skillfully avoid danger. He explained that this was why she became head of the guild. At that moment, the girl heard something. Fear gripped everyone, and the master immediately addressed him. Representative of the most sinister caste. Available information shows no physical force affects him. He charged in decisively, and the girls, unaware of his incredible strength, grew worried for him. Rodigan told Landete. He had trusted her to look after the gnome for the whole mission. He squeaked, and at that moment a mighty blow rang out, Silent and almost motionless, he watched the ruins of the shopping mall. At his call, Londit immediately panicked. As expected, the spirits literally drain a person's life force. Unleashing his incredible powers, he destroyed his opponent effortlessly. No one accounted for the fact that the normal laws of physics no longer apply to him. Londit believes he still has some talent, though it is most likely just a technical quirk. Most importantly, the real situation is far more dangerous than it seemed. Confident in his own abilities, he decided to act despite the girl opposing the move. The man relentlessly commands the evil spirits without slowing down. Clearing this realm will take 3 full days, and it seems nothing will be left behind. The girls insist on retreating. Venturus noticed a castle shrouded in thick fog. None of them could believe what had happened. Ruvia got angry at the place they had found and immediately followed Venturus, since a guildmaster would do that. Not wanting to say goodbye, she always wanted to stay by the boy's side. The girl trembled with fear because another enemy suddenly appeared on their path. Monsters called Lizonas. Having apparently reached the castle's inner section, they climbed to the highest floor known as the throne. A girl they knew told the boys that almost no one came to see her, and that was not surprising because she lived in a very dangerous place. She asks the girl if she is the one controlling the evil spirits that have overrun the plane. Gnome says the girl is very poor. They put her in a room next to these spirits. As with Legion, she found the placement rude and thoughtless. This being was one of the highest rulers of this world, one of the 18 devil spears. Ruea proposed that she step away from all this, since she decided to use her abilities of her own accord, possibly because of interaction with our protein. Shocked by this condition, when asked whether the local spirits really appeared because she said she had no idea why those creatures were near her. The girl thinks they somehow reached toward her butt. She's causing trouble for the whole neighborhood, so it would be best if the devilist settled somewhere else, farther from the town. Gnome agrees with the boy because he believes that as a higher being, she can handle such a task. But the girl replies that, because this place won her heart, she decided to settle here, like others do. They do not live as long as she does and do not have her power. She said that if she were truly wise, she would set aside her divine pride and choose people. It was about pride, and the devil declared that a rule unchanged since ancient times says the weak must submit. Cry out, instantly drop to the bottom and appeal to the supreme mercy, or ruthless death awaits as ordered by the devils. The proteinist makes someone an unexpected offer. He says that if he is stronger than her, she will have to submit. Angry, he says he does not realize how serious the situation he is in has become. To her, such arrogance deserves its punishment. A slow death that will make him feel every torment of despair. She moved to confront the evil spirit's leader, and for Lawn Diet this far surpassed all earlier trials because her intuition as a traveler with over 10 years of experience immediately warned her how serious it was. Support was absent. The list drew attention to the girls who were watching closely. Reassures them not to worry because she promised to spare them and return them to their usual place. No one can understand why she was killed. On their return, she insists they spread the word around the neighborhood about the boy's tragic death, because Abinion wants them to become warning singers. He had no doubt she would leave no one alive, and he liked that, certain she was exactly as she should be. He has so much evidence that every new piece points to even more. Choosing to stay alive brings warmth and kindness, and even the villainess begins to feel a certain sympathy for someone. She flushed at his words. Burning anger swept over her at once because she was sure the boy was only flattering her. He promised not to take her life until the operation was fully completed. Until then, he had never said anything like that to her. Shortly before the boy died, she decided to give a talk about how the world is put together. It was very important to her that the girls listen carefully too. She opened her story with the words, "There are 3 kinds of higher beings on Earth." In truth, she belonged to the highest caste, the spirits, a level comparable to a dead man, and such beings were extremely rare, only 18 in the world, which caused surprise. He pointed out that a person can only unlock 90% of their potential. Seeing that, she asked with interest how they were handling the matter. She deepens their despair and boldly challenges them to remove the leaves one at a time. The highest levels of this being reached level 59,845. Panic spread through the crowd when the number topped 10,000. They believed no one could handle such a threat and that their cities were doomed. The Albanian had expected that reaction. The Evelists asked the main character, "Do you realize the power of your dwarf dragons?" Fury swept over her. Rua struck her, causing a powerful blast. Hevelius was completely swept up by a powerful surge of his own life energy. Her demonic body began to dissolve into a vaporous mist. The boy grew even paler and decided she was no different from demonic forces, and that once her life energy hit her, he could neutralize her. "Look how far the guys have come, and here I am." Rodiganus told her he had reached 8,347,117 levels, which instantly impressed her. Just to keep him informed, she started obeying him wildly. She admits she was foolish and did not know what trouble she had gotten into, and the devil worshipper desperately begs the man to at least keep her. She surprised him by trusting him so openly and called him her majesty, saying his strength reached her very core. Reluctantly, she apologizes to him for disturbing her peace and wonders if our hero is familiar with a phenomenon like a giant serpent or some other natural occurrence. He admitted he knew a dragon-like serpent. The demoness said they recklessly break the laws of the universe and avoid facing the consequences. The young man did not understand her meaning. Recent reports say 3 kinds of higher beings exist on Earth, but beyond our world in inaccessible space live the so-called 8 dragon serpents that inhabit 4 dimensions and guard 2 poles. Every few hundred years they appear without warning, unleashing a wave of change so powerful the world flips upside down in an instant. The protagonist is sure he has grasped the meaning of her words. They say this boy was chosen by the dragon serpent. Abinion humbly apologizes for his rudeness and promises to grant any request. He orders her to die. Shortly after, she starts hitting herself, but the man quickly says it was only a joke. Calm settled on the plain, but on the way back, the boy faced a flood of questions, and one was about his level. It was clear the label, 17, did not reflect his true ability, and the swordmaster said the card could not show his real strength because it only displayed lower values. She admitted she had seen something that made her stop and think, but accepting it took faith. She said she had always found our protagonist extremely impressive. He stays that way because for people like them with strong personalities, skills don't matter, and that guy always ends up at a disadvantage. Constant disappointment and an inferiority complex from lacking a necessary skill plagued him, and for 5 years he endured the ongoing misery of having to use the toilet in the wild. Now the hero sees himself as ordinary because, despite getting stronger, his abilities remain limited. The main character increasingly turns to people who, like Gnome, faced similar problems, asking her to support him in a difficult moment. And the event rules are so strict that even members of the royal family cannot act on their own. If Ryuya can not only follow these rules, but reach the top S rank, or at least the respected A rank, it will clearly show the strength of his abilities. Cheerful and confident, a girl says she'll be happy to help. Someone behind them says this guy has an incredible personality. The boy wondered why she was still here after he had told her to leave. She said she had already hidden the lock. When the adventure master returned, he said his lock was gone too. Gavail said the castle looked ghostly because she created it. Finally, the man warned her not to cause any more trouble. Abinion slowly walked away into the distance, struggling to say a few words. She intended to always stay by Her Majesty's side. The girls' faces showed sheer shock and embarrassment. I had warned them this would bring evil spirits. Abinion assured them that shutting the tap would make all their troubles disappear. No one knew which tap she meant, but she kept insisting it had to be found. Thanks to the individual tuning of her miasma, she can fly freely, shifting her appearance from bright white to almost transparent. All of them began walking home, buoyed by a sense of victory. The boys are convinced their troubles stem from too much talk. Then an unexpected turn of events happened, confirmed by our proto-Gant. He recalled a sacred oath between the master and the servant that even the devil had to give something. Still, the boy did not understand what she meant. He deepened the kiss with his tongue, which she liked a lot. How did he manage to reach her? After their passionate minutes ended, Abonian said their souls were now intertwined, and they could share a part of each other's feelings. Note this: the past was closely tied to the ability to recognize the traits of others. The boy could not see the qualities of anyone stronger than him, but there are none now. That is truly wonderful. Show him what our hero sees when he looks closely at. Stunned, he really notices every parameter. Her modest help mattered. Force alone could not achieve this because he had only warned those girls. She shared the information without hesitation or regret. She asked him if he really could not accept it from the one who brings it. He looked at the girl and thought a demonic spirit could be so alluring. Then she spoke the same words, saying she had not heard a man call her beautiful in a long time, and their unique story began on the first day of their adventures. Riding back to the city in full triumph, they ran into an ugly man, and beside him stood the man the protagonist had hit. The adventure master instantly recognized him as Degrazil. That was his name. It surprised him that the young man had neither a frying pan nor a weapon. Ruia studied the attributes that appeared on the screen. Impressed by his skill, he was especially surprised by how accurately he could tell how much someone liked or disliked the Titan, information not shown on the map, and he asked eagerly who this man was. He wanted to make clear that his loyalty to Bari's younger brother would not go unanswered, and he would have to pay for it. The brothers of the High Faction would soon stage a phantom revenge. One powerful strike sends his treacherous brother instantly soaring into the clouds. First, he points a finger at the hero, accusing him of living without real skills, while Dogwits prepares to break his arms and legs. He returned to Lendata and said that from now on she would be his lover and companion, because her presence had long been the source of his dissatisfaction, and he saw in her great potential for his own, though overly bold, plans. They returned to the city in radiant triumph. Suddenly, his body began to change, as if filled with an unseen, powerful energy. Abonian, who stepped in, asked the main character to allow punishment for those responsible, but he insisted it was his personal matter. Before the torture began, Digizu focused only on the demoness's body. They were far from wise last thoughts before the inevitable suffering. They cleared the Adventurers' Guild of rioters and closed the case for good. The next day, events took a new turn when the scene shifted to the guild, and Londit began her speech with a polite apology. She wants them to complete a course on dungeons. Londit sincerely thanks them for clearing the plains to gather herbs, and for dealing with the mess after his comrades' quick dodges. Second-rank challenge. Currently in first place, her outstanding skills will soon move her easily up the ranks. The young woman knows everything is fine, because the main character made a much bigger contribution than she did. Abignon is convinced she is remarkable and truly original. Wildmaster claims they are overstepping established boundaries as they rapidly rise in rank, and she actively promotes their advancement. The boys don't grasp what's happening, but the devil warned of a much more serious threat than the one that seems minor. They started talking about their strength. It says these forces will not let them go easily. Their goal is either to take the boys or to crush them. After this, the guild can no longer protect its ranks. The Royal Palace, the Academy of Magic, and other institutions are all in demand, and the list of people who want to use them could go on forever. Refusing to be used, they must show their character. Rui, looking at his hands, realizes that even without special skills, he can start a real war if he puts in enough effort. His power is not a crime on its own, but it cannot be used just for personal gain. It can be used to bring... Suddenly he realized something. He needs to complete as many quests as possible to boost his team's rating. The Master of Adventures has already prepared a recommendation letter for him if needed. Task details are shown on the screen. 3 minutes later, they reached the grand gates of the dungeon in the Kinselian Kingdom. The boys were impressed by how enormous it was. Komod, a guide engineer, and Chisky set off in pursuit of the protogenist. A level 17 guy with no special skills tries to enter the dungeon, claiming he has a letter of recommendation, and Element Binyana overhears the conversation because they are behind the walls. He could hardly believe his eyes. His sister said confidently that they both had great strength and everything was fine. He knew the girl was only level 3 in the dungeon and was easily frightened, so he told her to stay close. It turned out it wasn't like that at all. Noam was just reviewing material related to you. The boy flung it open and warned her to stop flirting because this was not an attraction for couples or groups of friends. I asked whether people with powerful skills really get more opportunities in the dungeon. Kama replied that it is unfair, but despite all effort, a strong skill makes all the difference. And people with well-developed abilities enjoy far richer lives because advancing comes much more easily to them. He's sure she's right because many unlucky people share her view. Reach the first goal, the root of Miss Kane. Noting how odd it looked, he said the object was only a little farther on. She moved closer, but the boy immediately tried to stop her, warning it might be a trap. This is the body of a monster that, as soon as a living creature enters its domain, instantly wraps the victim and mercilessly drains all their blood. The most effective move could be an ability that pierces the ground and delivers devastating blows. We engulf everything around in flames. After plotting the route, Ruya asked if this was what they were looking for. Confused, he should have tried to escape in such danger, but he heard in reply, "That's why I pulled him out immediately." "Oh, you won't manage, miss. This route is much bigger than you. Miss Dragon cannot take this path. Her chance of success is under 1%. Nobody asks her if she has any information about it." The girl began to appraise the item because the alchemical lord skill let her improve the quality of items she found. The same thing happened during a training task. Their second target was Kiki's horn. It was a massive creature that resembled a horn. He cuts through steel armor as if it were ordinary sheet metal. Second, Rio wins. It's incredible. The guide had never seen anything like it. The curious boy asks him, "What is it?" The girl said this material is the best not only for making armor, but also a great alchemy ingredient. The boy was incredibly bright and energetic. He was pleasantly surprised to have won another rare trophy. Long live the Lord of the Alps. Rua asks the girl if it is hard for her to carry Kiki's money. The engine guide warned them not to go too deep while introducing the final ingredient. The red sand still lay there, much more dangerous than the ordinary sand they were used to. When she asks to be led, he cannot understand why his skill suddenly vanished and tries to stop the kidnapping. Later, it turns out Ria has the necessary abilities. Sand is a delicate, high-quality mineral used to make medicines. When it touches air, it instantly breaks down into many mercury compounds, and to protect itself, it attacks any living creature that comes near. So people call it the mercury killer, the place where it's found. Rua asks if, when the substance is liquid, we can quietly bring it to. A target rose before them, covered by a huge mound of red sand. He paused, trying to figure out how to defeat the creature. But the guide had no idea what to do. The creature was immune to physical attacks, and its venom made the task harder. There might be another way to overcome it. The poison, powerful as it is, will not harm the main character. Ruia confidently tells Noam he will take on this task. Like a pike, he darted straight toward the substance in question. Shocked by the events, she believes the young man intends to. After only a few minutes, the mercury stopped abruptly. It rose smoothly from the very bottom of the lake. He cannot understand how the boy managed to survive, and Ruia floated in mercury because no one had made an antidote for the poison that kept accumulating in the chest. Rotagonist tried to refuse, saying he was fine, but the girl insisted on helping. The boy had no idea what was wrong. Someone warned them not to just stand there, but to act. Abinion. She began to explain that without decisive action, the body would melt and disappear forever. The Devilist asked her to pass this on to someone else. Her body is completely isolated from the outside world, lacking even basic elements like air and oxygen. Already about to return, he went over everything that had happened. The dungeon guide realized she had underestimated this boy, and though he lacked supernatural powers, his mind was remarkably sharp. He was convinced he would get great joy from acquiring 3 rare materials, although she might later meet a truly wonderful person. The guild leader was deeply outraged by how quickly the task was completed. He arranged for them to meet the head of the craft guild, a man known as the Saint. Unfamiliar with what a craft guild is, he asks Londit for an explanation. He was surprised because they had managed to accomplish an extremely difficult task. Senju knows that even high-rank adventurers would need years to collect each. The task was not yet finished, so they asked the boy to sit. The protagonist wondered what the artist and the representative had missed. These materials could be used to make something. 3 main components were discussed: an anesthetic, a tonic, and the red. An exceptionally powerful version of a common potion. It can regrow lost limbs and grant other remarkable abilities. Palace. Not even the most talented doctors and greatest alchemists will be able to complete such an utterly absurd task. The fight against demons in the northeast is far from over. The potion could have been made by a master alchemist, but his game has no such specialist. A person in the kingdom was worth more than their weight in gold, so when someone received that title at the blessing ceremony, they attracted special attention. Knowing the task must be cancelled, he regrets the large sum they will lose. I'm now insisting he wait. He asks who she is and what she carries with her, and the girl openly admits she is a female alchemist. how to create them, and how he should trust him specifically. Juvie asks Londit why, even with a man like that in the guild, she never noticed him. Londit replies that he can always count on her. A week later, she finally finished the work, but instead of the ordered canned supplies, she produced 300 bottles of X-Potion, which surprised the adventurers. The next day, Senjoy invited the girl to join the artisan community. He tells her this place just isn't for you. Being called the Lord of Alchemy makes this a very honorable profession, and he offers her favorable terms and vast wealth. Ignoring the man's words, our gnome decisively refuses the offer. The moment any order appears, she is ready to carry it out. He notices she has found new confidence. If the quest helped her mature, she was not like this before. He refuses to give up. On top of that, he has another demand. Everyone knows the number of potions far exceeded the royal palace's requirements. Excellent work. It deserves the highest praise. It turned out the king met them personally at the royal palace. They set out to meet the king. Leonard Friedrich, who had sent all 13 to Kilian Elorix, told them their work deserved the highest praise and that the potions they had made would save the country. Realizing how difficult the task had become, Leonardo was unsure anyone could complete it. For such young adventurers, this was a real victory, and the king hoped to reward them with a fitting honor. Shaking, he assures everyone he did his best, and Ruga thinks about how the king, aware of the situation, still chose to assign this task because the circumstances demanded it. Most importantly, he will give them a green spirit. He points at our protagonist. Ruea did not expect such a sudden turn in the battle. Naruto asks if it is true, but there is only silence in response. Protagonist starts sharing the story of how they met, noting that people usually see him as a kind of guardian. The conversation went on for a while. Now King knew the whole story about the slave traders and the girls who had been bravely rescued, and believed he had gathered all the rare materials himself. The king asks what unique skill our hero has. Calmly, he says he has no such unique skill. Thank you sincerely for watching. Ardo said angrily that some people in this world hide their talents on purpose to avoid harm. But now, a king stands before him, and he must call on every person in the kingdom. Hiding your skill from the monarch is a real sin, the man added. He suggested showing him the guild map. Another agreed. Unbelievable. He can't believe his eyes because it's the first time he's met someone without... Suddenly, someone interrupts their conversation. The king's minister, Gusade Camille, said the man he was talking to was clearly exaggerating his achievements, since those feats could not have been done without the proper skills, and he believed this was meant to win the king's trust. Since he lacks the necessary abilities and proves useless, the king should focus on the girl beside the alchemist. Drive Roy away. No one else is coming. They assured the girl it was all for her. A chosen girl should not be near worthless trash. Trash like him is worthless, one of them said coldly. She loudly insisted that Ruicha-san was her savior and firmly refused to listen to any insults aimed at her. He appeared and stated it was already well known. Appearing in colossal size, the demoness ordered them to begin immediately reciting praises to her lord, or inevitable doom would befall them all. At first, she aimed not only to destroy her master, but to tear the whole kingdom apart, yet now she decided to limit herself to only that course. The pale woman frightened the king and his minister. Abinion asks with clenched teeth for permission to carry out her plan, but the young man is busy with his own affairs. The minister orders the guards to attack the cannon. He said they were not ready to fight. Abinion, however, was ecstatic, mocking the servants as little fish, and claiming that even hundreds of thousands could not match her power. That is how it happened. He asked the boy about performing the operation. He says he met her, but Abinion immediately cuts him off, saying she has just fallen in love. Hevelis says she rules all the evil spirits on earth. They call her the Corrupted, and it is fitting because she serves our prodigan. Everyone around him was amazed that he had managed to control his restless urge to walk. If this is true, his achievements matter even more. But the minister insists, saying that most women try only to trick him. One of them is now beside Kahoot, next to a scoundrel with no talent. Haseda says the king must carefully decide if he is truly someone who can stand up to such a monster. Calling the minister bald, he asked if the minister's mind was completely empty. He is taken aback by her straightforwardness. Even so, she could see the full power of her majesty. Trained by the greatest dragon, he had a level over 8 million. Ruyo felt embarrassed and frustrated at always clumsily revealing everything at once. He feels faith and wonder as he thinks about it, while the minister dismisses it as mere childish fantasies. After striking the minister on the forehead, he said firmly that the man was a real fool who thought only within the limits of human knowledge and could not be respected at all. Also, the boy got his power from a huge dragon whose power level reached 10 minutes. Alice is glad she helped those people understand, and the young man praised her. But she hopes he will join the effort too. She started an unusual lesson. According to her, if his level is really that high, Vlad becomes even more attractive to him. Letta comes from a noble family that loyally serves his country, and he will soon reach the rank of general. Asks Rui if he wants to challenge him to a duel. The Centricilian Kingdom's representative reacts with outrage at the order to fight the adventurer. Ruea decides to take a close look at the opponent's stats. The screen showed the warrior's stats. He was surprised that a young man barely over 20 had reached level 31. Even more striking was who it was. Letta stresses she does not use her combat skills because it is extremely dangerous. Describes her skill, claiming that she, confident his skills are at the highest level. The boy tells her he doesn't have that skill. To her, his words are pure nonsense, because it is clear he is far from stupid. Reports say the man was right. Her abilities grow as she gains more subordinates, and she now leads about 100 people whose contribution remains invaluable even when they are not in combat. Spoken words make her attack incredibly powerful, increasing it 20-fold. This is extremely important. Nisha says he should now understand that taking part in ordinary sparring with her is pointless, because she is sure she could tear him apart with a single powerful strike. Revis reassures her that everything is fine and she can use her things freely. He wants to see his power in action, and if it does not strike with full force, he will be disappointed. Assume his words were meant to insult him. Accepting his offer, he tells the boy, "Just try not to do that." A powerful swing rose into the air like a battle explosion, and she delivered her strongest blow. With a single powerful strike, you used the stopped sword technique right here. The entire audience erupted in applause and surprised cries, convinced it was impossible without a powerful defensive skill. They could not understand how this could have happened at all. S explains that all he did was move his body. He cannot understand why the escort ended up in the middle of the attack, and a reporter like him could not be knocked down even by the strongest blow. Surprised, she says she is not a girl, but the protagonist repeatedly insists she could not be male. And he praises his lord as the most powerful. After all, the king had already made his final decision. Then asks if Rua is ready to take on the challenge and do the impossible. Urges him to head northeast with Led and join. Demons are the enemies, and the kingdom needs his power to save humanity. Only by coming together can humanity stand against its enemies. Ruea will rush into a fierce duel with the demons. Although he lacks specific skills, he is on par with others in some areas. A few hours later, they reached the front line in the northeastern part of Santa Cape. This year's bloodshed was total and all-encompassing. He said that 6,000 men were stationed at the front, and another 1,000 were guarding the defensive lines. But the battle was clearly going against them. It was expected that someone would deliver it. A senior commander steps onto the stage with his assistant. All the potions had already been used. The attack suddenly intensified, and the warrior's strength was not enough, so all the potions had to be used. As a result, the senior commander apologized. He sees the situation is still in a terrible, pitiful state. Night will come that can stop further bloodshed. I'm going to cut off this demon's hand myself, but Abinion assured me the creature will easily regrow it. She orders everyone to disperse as she begins to shape the world. All her devoted followers command the demon to provide the materials she needs so she can begin creating new expositions. The space is filled with various tools Gnome received from others. He asks the girl if she can actually do it. She has the skill of a true alchemist. 4 years on the front line came as a shock to everyone who learned about it. Everyone began thanking her. The fighters immediately handed out the healing potion to those with the worst wounds. To the world, Shan became a true symbol of hope and light. Claims Londi already mentioned this. He is driven by a strong desire to help everyone. The hero asks the Lord of Spirits a crucial question. It can absorb energy. Is there a method to achieve the opposite effect? A thick mist suddenly rose over the battlefield. Did we really feel relieved? Was it really him? She releases the protagonist's life force, which will certainly boost his regeneration. The devil tells the boy her embrace is irreplaceable. Deep down, she wants something entirely different. The first task is to heal everyone, because this will allow him to reduce the harm done. In just 1 hour, over 1,000 people were healed. An incredible achievement that promises a real revolution once these striking rumors begin to spread among people. Her helmet lay there, and her comrades doubted whether it had been worth it. They were sure he had never taken it off because they thought it looked indecent, but the night was incredible. The strategists quickly discussed the situation and concluded the demon's retreat was a clever trick meant to set up an inevitable attack. Issued the order received from. Opening the letter, she realized she was now the army's commander-in-chief. Let your memories be your support, and remember those unique skills she has. Each new subordinate raises her power by 20%, yet she has little strength on her own. The war imposed one rule. All 7,000 soldiers had to be subordinate to it. The female warrior fears her body might not endure the trials, since with 7,000 soldiers, her strength will grow 14-fold. Her body might not hold up when she strikes, but she is completely ready. As a knight, she is completely dedicated to defending the kingdom. If a chance arises to neutralize a threat to the kingdom, she will not hesitate to sacrifice everything to eliminate it. Les Ledzi holds the final decision and can use it only in the most critical situations. Rua and Gnome have already saved countless people. Rua noted that she is deliberately putting herself in danger. Battle begins. Take cover at once to avoid Leslin's abilities. You have only one chance. At the critical moment, our hero abruptly stops them while he is busy with his own affairs. Ruiz certainly didn't care about their methods, but he worried whether they'd let him join. These sleds that saved so many lives became a symbol of hope. Despite all difficulties, the hero decided to go to the battlefield. Rui brought Ice with him to the battlefield. The girl would stay behind, but Leslanza doubted it. Her skills were put to use, and he drew all their power, creating the image of a true protagonist. He wondered what would happen if it proved too much for the protagonist. He is convinced that sacrificing his life to save a beautiful woman is a noble idea. Ruega told her not to pay attention to it, and she obediently followed his advice. He only wanted to support her, and he wasn't the only one, because her sword radiated the determination of 7,000 girls. Leslin gave them their lives, trusting both him and her unconditionally. Only this way can they make the girl truly strong. Confident, he believes they will suffer no losses in this battle, and her skill will give them a clear advantage. Play the leading role, because that was what King Leonardo demanded of him. The secret the young man and the king shared was meant to remain their joint weapon, but he suddenly snapped in anger. She was stunned by what she had. The moment the demons began their attack, the screen showed how many monsters were trying to destroy every single one. Reporters in Abinsk recorded about 30,000 demons. Flying on his wings, they laughed and said, "While people die like flies, he is gathering an unprecedented army." The demon in turn demands to be shown how it will happen. This is how demons really look. The hero faces them for the first time. He was tormented by the question of why he had to meet such an annoying creature. "Among the demons I know by name," he asked if that boy was sure of what he said. They claim this is a wise choice by her mother. The plan is to remove him immediately, and then everything will be clear to the others. As noted, they are given only one chance. Despite her safety concerns, she remains confident she will succeed. Beside her is Ruea, who has 8 million at her disposal. Most likely she will be shocked. The consequences of this event continue to reveal their true nature. It was such an incredible force that it felt like an atomic explosion. The soldiers were surprised, but they had already come to expect that level from their unconventional comrades. Confirm whether Luzlin survived. Shocked by the counterattack, they nevertheless managed to seize most of their army. I believe she will not have the strength for the next attack. He calls Gnome, and she immediately rushes to him. He brought the potion, and the girl immediately began to drink it. Her wounds began to heal at once, so she finally decided to try the potion on herself. Gnome assured her she had plenty more. Notes that it is time to focus on preparing for the second speech. Even if the girl's bones fully recover and the wounds heal, every use of this ability will still hurt her. At least it proves one thing. Ignoring her, the boy ordered them to stand up and take their positions so they could speak. A second blast came from that spot. After receiving a second dose of Potion X, they prepared to strike again, marking the third attempt. Next round, they drink potions and prepare for a new attack. Events unfold again in a familiar cycle. They are already forcing him to drink a potion, baiting him with food. He is already vomiting from the potion they force him to take by hiding it in tasty food. She says she can destroy these 30,000 demons with a single strike and doubts the point of any extra effort. You yourself said it was only a human battle, nothing more. The kingdom's army, tasked with uniting the forces and repelling the demonic threat, succeeded thanks to its skill. Surviving demons marveled at the extraordinary skill of these pitiful humans. Their powers annoyed the demons. He asked him why he was not rushing home, but the demon ignored the question and said the boy was not a suitable target. He's really going to have fun, because nothing pleases you more than killing people. He declares he will be our hero's opponent, and Rua says she will keep him entertained until the full moon. What readers have long waited for is about to happen, and the demon is sure it will handle it easily. The protagonist insists that Benion's death will leave a void that will be hard to forget. The demon is sure that facing him is far easier than facing 30,000 demons, because he considers them extremely ignorant. And meanwhile, the monster takes real pleasure in the idea of destroying them, believing these insignificant creatures must suffer unmatched torment in death. The true power of the titular demons is revealed, and he not only had extraordinary strength but also gained many unique abilities. Yang talked non-stop, but Ru ignored him completely. An attack on the main character will start soon. I activate my ability to create an acid fog. The withdrawal under cover of the acid fog was completed successfully. True demonic power comes from the variety of their abilities. Ben Yang said the main character could not see anything through the thick fog, a clear sign of the huge gap in power between humans and demons, and asked in surprise why the man refused to surrender. If the fog stays, the soldiers could be in danger, and then they'd have to do something. The man winked at someone. Understanding her master's intent, she immediately began to carry out his plan. Explosion. The shot struck the demon. He cannot understand what this white mist is because his usual acidic mist was suddenly blocked, and it is hard to believe this amazing change. He insists his powers far surpass a demonic spirit's might, but Abinion flatly rejects that. Accusing him of being demonic, he keeps a steady, piercing stare, and doesn't realize the devil forgets. The powers of higher-ranked spirits surpass even the mightiest demons. He cannot understand why she chose an alliance with humans. She did not refute a single one of his many words. She gives him the impression that she is just submitting to someone stronger than her. He couldn't believe anyone could be stronger than a demonic spirit, but he soon saw it was true. The main character is off-screen, a little surprised. He suddenly begins to see the world through the devil's eyes. Abian approaches the master, sniffs him, and asks if he wanted her to make sure all the soldiers were safe. But she already did. He gently stroked the she-devil's head and sincerely thanked her for fulfilling his request. The feeling was incredible for him. He is certain it is impossible because the acid fog is 500 times stronger than normal acid. Surviving in such an environment is a real challenge, and settling at home is even more hopeless. A man asks the boy if he is human. Rui confirms, "Yes, I'm just an ordinary person." The character is not inclined to kill, but the demon despises humans, sees nothing wrong with destroying them, and feels some relief. A moment later, the boy stood directly in front of Benion's, warns him that the boy will have to kill him. One blow was enough to send half his head flying. The urge to get rid of this man did not fade, even though his mind had shrunk. Intense regeneration kicked in, and the demon was sure Rio would do nothing. The protagonist begins unleashing a barrage of strikes. He felt unbearable pain, had no time to regain his strength, and at this pace the boy would definitely destroy him, except for his death, which comes in the same way as that of the ordinary people he destroyed. Absolute silence filled the air, and the moon shone brightly in the sky. He tirelessly praises his master. Those were truly wonderful times. Everything that happens is the devil's doing. The soldiers notice the sky has filled with light again, and everyone immediately realizes what happened. The sun draws his father's attention and points, so our heroes focus their gaze in that direction. Everyone is overjoyed because their hostess has finally returned, and the celebration lifts their spirits. It turns into a protein. Able to stand on her own now, she asks him to let go because it embarrasses her. She says if our hero carried her like that, she would feel incredible happiness, and Abinion adds she would be on cloud 9. A few hours later, they find themselves on King Kenta Killian's Street of Triumph. Considers the local residents' harsh reaction excessive. Everything looks absurd, since the demonic army was beaten with almost no trouble, and the townspeople will be overjoyed seeing it as a real victory. He had something special. To hear every detail directly from the fighters, he orders them to start their account. Ardo listened closely to every word, admiring even the smallest details. She says she survived thanks to Gnome, and most of the credit for defeating the demons goes to Rui, and she hopes he will receive the highest honors for his achievements. He looked at his new friend and, to his surprise, gladly accepted what he heard. Victory would have been impossible without every one of the king's subjects taking part, and the king plans to raise them all into the ranks of the aristocracy. Ardo is firmly confident in his intentions. The king's assistant, as always, was unhappy, convinced there was no sign that commoners suddenly joined the new aristocracy, let alone those who could be called true spendthrifts. He's furious and can't stand this anymore. For people like that, a simple thank you will be enough. Actually, it will be more than enough, because the minister isn't going to back down. Tells him that these stand out for their loudness. He rises and declares that the true duty of a king is to govern the state and support his subjects. Rua saved the situation this time, proving he faithfully fulfills the ruler's duties and that the noble title is only a small symbolic reward for his service. This scene almost brings tears to my eyes. Asks whether Rui is truly ready to accept aristocratic status and continue her service. Leslads almost resorts to begging to get him to finally confess. The minister orders him to take what belongs to him. Having just learned that an important guest had arrived at the castle, the minister showed proper respect first and only then made his decision. Which side did the minister take? When he asks Leslads who he is, she is surprised he does not know. Is a person chosen by someone else? The church carefully assesses people's abilities and selects the strongest for service. Those chosen form an elite that includes the best warriors. The heroes faithfully carry out their calling. The protagonist said they were just pawns of the church, since Loundit had already reminded him of it. All the hatred she felt toward them was clear on Leslad's face, but the reasons for it are still unknown. Suddenly bursting into the room, the hero shouted, addressing the arrival that saved the king, a daring hero, the true embodiment of courage. Thank you sincerely for watching. Asked what the kingdom needed saving from, he said, the kingdom suffers from constant demon attacks. He remembers someone in it who always waved their hands energetically and spoke unbearably loudly, but that person's name has completely faded from memory. At that moment he thought of Libra, a person who once had an incredible skill but later gave it up. He brags so relentlessly that even the king cannot get a word in. He says every ballot will show his victory. As a reward, he hopes to get a wonderful prince. He looked closely at Leslades and immediately realized something was wrong. He began to address Libra, but could not understand why Libra used his name when speaking to him. Rotagenist said it was him, his former friend. Now his inner parts are gaining the upper hand over him. What will their reunion bring? When asked about the man, he said they had once been close friends. What is this guy doing here, and why, given his choices, wasn't he thrown straight into the trash? A fierce contempt burned in Libra's gaze, and Ruea realized it was better for him to step back. An arrogant young man, indifferent to the hero, turns to the king and asks if it's finally time to deal with urgent matters. Eduardo doesn't grasp what work is. Reports say their kingdom was attacked by a demon army, and the church has already sent brave warriors there. Remember, he asked for help from priests and others who had the strongest powers against demons, and the young man confirmed it. He says he asked for help many times, but the church keeps going about its business. The man looked embarrassed and lowered his head. He asked if it was true and soon got confirmation. The church's sacred magic proved extremely effective against demons. The priests barely managed its power, and the magic paid no attention to the hero's skin. The church was granted the exclusive right to use any methods to oppose demonic forces. The request goes to the church with payment for the successful completion of the task. They literally spread money across every kingdom worldwide, and the king sees it as a tool the greedy queen uses to profit. He says he has finally arrived, and since the church supports many kingdoms, they cannot meet every request right away. Angry, he still has his own priorities. Stalacred is responsible for many deaths. His kingdom sends a vast amount of gold to the church every year. Next time, he should think 3 times before making a donation. He notes that donations supporting the war come from more than just the king. As a true hero, he confidently declares he has the right to marry Princess Lesnar. To his surprise, the knight was called a prince. The king rhetorically asks him if he is willing to sacrifice the princess to defend the king. States that the church's support will bring significant benefit. The czar's duty is to defend his monarch. He feels the urge to act but stays still. Waiting for an answer, he orders the princess handed over to him. promising the king not just peace but something far greater. "It is better to be at the mercy of demons than to rely on people like him," he says. Appealing to the king, he asks him to come back to reality, because this situation is no laughing matter. He asked the boy if he'd noticed the mood that had settled over everyone. The warriors reported the demons had been defeated and the kingdom saved. His presence on the map proved unnecessary. Seeing it as a formal greeting held in his honor, he even waved back. "People say he is The king insists he wasn't full of himself. He orders the boy to leave, saying he will not speak to a nobody like him. He commands the young man to tell the church leaders that his kingdom is prospering rapidly, and that their last day has come. The boy immediately saw the king was furious. Liver is determined to learn the name of the one who defeated the demon. The minister asks the man to come forward. The man admits he can hardly believe it himself, but the clumsy fellow managed to overcome the demons, and the hero is completely stunned. "I can't believe this man really was a hero." He suddenly lunged at the protagonist, demanding he tell the truth because he thought the hero was lying. But Ruia said the hero was not lying. About the calls, this guy is utterly useless, like trash, completely lacking common sense. This guy is pure trash, and the demon should already have been ruthlessly eliminated. After letting the other person finish speaking, Gnome strikes Layla without hesitation. She immediately orders the boy to be quiet, refusing to let a coward like him speak about her true master. Almost everyone there saw him fearlessly take down the demons, and even the Knight Commander, known as Sizbox Swore Knightly, could not forget that spectacular moment. Carl's library is impressive. He wears down anyone who fights hard while he relaxes and strikes. The girl orders him to leave immediately. "I'm a pig and a miserable girl, and her blow damaged this character's face." He asks in surprise where this ghost came from, and the Devilist calls him completely helpless. He plans to execute the girl for insulting the hero because such mockery is unacceptable, but no one fears her. Suddenly a white mist appears all around, and a voice comes through it saying, "There is only Libra himself." He notes that Gnome handled it perfectly, and everything went flawlessly. Although he is really funny, his time has come. Gathering all his strength, the boy rose into the air and flew. He says he could handle it himself, but the Devilist says wasting strength on that would be pointless. While he thinks over his next meeting, he must wait and keep taking action. He suggested going downstairs to discuss something important with Ryan. The king summoned only Rui, and the girls won't come. Will you delight the king with wonders if everything stays the same? He insists continuing the royal line is vital, but something is worrying him. The girls are the reason for his doubts. Ironically, the mother holds a low-level job and no one will support the Leslit's initiative, so she loses her inheritance rights. He sought to separate her from the royal family's problems, hoping she would find her own happiness. At least, that was his only wish. In the royal palace, during his free time, he thought carefully about which decision to make in the end. Unexpectedly, he was summoned to the nearby library. Suggests discussing the case alone. Gnome points out the hero clearly has a sly plan. The girl actively defends her bodyguard. He orders Abinion to watch Gnome. The young man and his former friend head over the wall to the west tower on the Centillion Canal. Rhodogonis admits he misses that orderly life, but Liber refuses to return to memories of the unhappy past that even shows in his appearance. Although his relationship with the king is excellent, Libra still has not seen the princess, and he will put up with her even if she turns out ugly. Ruya understood why Liber acted that way around him. He had met people proud of their skill before, but his former friend was a different case and had never behaved like that. At last the hero realized the man was serious about killing him because his intentions were aimed against them. He doubts his ordinary, untalented outcast can help him beat that opponent. Here the guy asks why the hero treats people as if they... The egoist replies that he is trying to give his life meaning, and says this will also benefit the princess, since by marrying her and removing the king's other children, he will finally achieve his goal. He has no intention of bringing anyone to see him. That church rarely has people like that, so it will definitely be used. Scratching the back of his neck. The egoist keeps belittling the hero, insisting that even he can be useful to others, and, he says, the hero should be glad because that helps the hero's cause. Harsh, insulting words burst from his mouth. He watched him silently as the other continued to listen to his shameful attempts at humiliation. He warns Rhea not to look down on him, then immediately launches an attack. Swings at the boy, but doesn't even get close to him. The egoist is sure he understands the problem and thinks Ruala is too bold, yet our hero may not truly grasp what is happening. To everyone else, he claimed the boy had exceptional talents, but that wasn't true. He believes skills can be learned without church rituals, and possesses an ability that greatly boosts defense. Liver immediately recognizes him as an opponent and seeks to test his strength. Intends to prove that this boy's skill is just an empty joke. While he speaks, Ruea carefully scans his stats that greatly boost his defense. The screen displays Libor's full details. This passage aims to surprise and shows that the church gives its followers clever skills that have become its trademark. They ask if he wants to find out about his skill, but Ruea says he doesn't care. He can steal others' abilities and use them as his own. A selfish man, convinced he is the strongest, believes that no matter how powerful an opponent is, his unique skill always gives him the advantage. Ruea could not use his ability while it remained in his possession. His opponents had already known despair before the duel with Ruea. It suggests this is more likely the skill of a sneaky thief than a defining quality of a true hero. He presses a gag over the boy's mouth, saying, "Only the winner has the right to speak." As a result, once Liver finally masters his non-existent skill, he immediately launches an attack. First strike. Liber rises into the air and flies a great distance. Keeps flying, flipping, and spinning wildly in the air. He urges Liber to check this for himself. Understand what this force is. Assumes he has not only a muscular body and impressive physical strength, but also incredible power. A single hole began to form around Rhea Hittarok. He was deeply impressed. He thinks it's incredible. Imagining how much his physical abilities could grow with this skill, he warns that such a talent simply does not exist. Now he understood everything. But things had been very different before. Someone who keeps trying to convince him that he cannot recognize the truth. Things our hero can truly be proud of. Sees that side. He's going to use his ASAP. Which ace was meant? An egoist can give up their own talent to permanently gain someone else's skill. This is a top-level operation that can only be performed once in a lifetime. We will permanently gain the main character's ability, which he does not actually have. This is great. At last, he can master the most powerful skill he has long dreamed of. An incredibly powerful tool was literally right under his nose. Ruea believes it. Believes. The higher skill is being activated. Deprivation has become active. It turns out nothing happened. That's the impression. He regrets not seeing this person's importance sooner, and now his only goal is to kill the young man. Gomanyak has no idea what's going on, while the protagonist urges him to check his own parameters. Libor's characteristics are shown, and one important trait is missing. In a state of hysteria, he hopes it was. He brings up paying for the wall, and Ryu, trembling with fear, asks whether he must pay. The conversation continues, and Leonardo adds that the self-satisfied fool was so sure of his skills, but in the end, he lost. Rotagonist felt a little pity for Libra, but realized the boy had brought this on himself. Carol defended Ryu, saying he started the fight and the main character was only defending himself. He calls Libru a complete idiot who had no idea what he was doing. The protagonist remembered sending them home, but how did they end up witnessing everything? She admitted firmly that she and Noah had been watching from a distance. A girl's heart works this way, and no one is an exception. Evelyn began her account because everything was already clear to them. To the king, she had to describe the events in detail, calling him an elder appointed beforehand with excessive self-importance. She explained confidently that her actions were not meant to benefit him. He asked her not to call him a conceited old man. Rhea, in turn, apologizes for that devil of a woman. Regarding self-defense, King said the church will clearly point this out even if the presence of family members cannot be proven. Do not forget they grew up avoiding others. He says there's no need to worry, because if they challenge him, the hero will immediately be at the center of the action. Clearly, he is not willing to make radical compromises, especially since their attempts are likely meant to smear him. It should be noted that this man has undeniably drawn their attention. He does not want to intervene or help mend relations with the church. The kingdom will do everything it can to support him, and the king will spare nothing to show his sincere gratitude. He asks if the man will help only out of sincere kindness, and the king agrees without hesitation. He wondered whether deeper motives hid behind his words, and the man replied that his actions had no selfish motive. If no one had stopped him and had let the insults against Loundout Senda continue, that man would have certainly struck him, and real trouble would have followed. and even dousing him with water would have been unnecessary, he noted. The king tells her that if he stays a simple adventurer, he will not be able to defend his honor. He couldn't understand him, but the devil smiled for some unknown reason. The king again invites Ruea to join the kingdom's nobility. Apparently this man will refuse the royal offer, and Rivia apologizes. He assures there is no need to worry, and if things get critical, the only thing the owner will do is wipe the church off the face of the earth. He was a bit offended by his words. They boasted, insisting nothing on this planet matched their power. Holding out her hand, she said she had a keen eye. She explained that her life spans far longer than a human's brief existence, and that her accumulated wisdom lets her come up with brilliant ideas. At its core, a wedding is about making vows before God and becoming married. He begins to explain that the church's role is to arrange a marriage for the princess and to secure the royal family's position through a husband, and that this will work as long as she remains free of any obligations. Each person can commit to just one partner for life. This is the rule. To withstand the church's attacks, secure the kingdom's support. Only someone approved by the people may marry the prince. Nature. The protagonist adheres to pacifism and believes that if it avoids problems, that path should be chosen. Despite everything, he does not want to end up among the ranks of the aristocracy. Aristocrats are more than the king's relatives. People began praising Zabinian enthusiastically for her brilliant idea, which instantly captured everyone's attention. If this momentum continues, the boys will soon take the lead over Eu. Ask why the main character insists on reviewing the story. He wants others to make all his decisions. That may seem appealing, but without a key element, the task cannot be completed successfully. Her friends don't understand what Ria is really talking about. First, marriage is the union of two people in love who build a future together, the protagonist says, and Abinion replies to the young man, "Aren't you attracted to something less than that ideal?" Avalisk comes very close to Rui, and he explains that his words should not be taken literally. The night is pleasant, charming, and very dear to him. Everyone is trying to win her hand, but to avoid chaos, he will not marry her on a whim. At last, the king himself admitted he would like to see her marry the man she chooses. Their feelings matter much more, he asserts. They concluded that marriage is impossible without Rulix. He is glad he spoke before the king, because true marriage is possible only when partners love each other unconditionally. They will soon find out the truth, because a phone call to Laselzi will clear up any doubts, and she is absolutely right that it is strange to talk about a wedding before they decide who will share the celebration. The protagonist went to the girl's house, and her face lit up with genuine joy when she saw him. Tells them that Mr. Ria made a huge contribution to this battle and should be paid back with at least harsh curses. He orders the young man to find all information about it. A limited number of LEDs on the screen clearly highlight the main features. The heart symbol is clear proof of genuine feelings for someone of the opposite sex. He asks thoughtfully when exactly the girl first began to feel love for you. He's sure the fighting on the battlefield played a part. Besides, the guy hit the fool who attacked Lesleda, and that alone is enough to make someone fall in love. Turns to his daughter and begins to recount the details of his conversation with the teacher. He was surprised that his father spoke directly to his daughter about that question. He announced that the king decided to hand her over to the church, but her father answered firmly that it would not happen. The father repeated this often despite the king's plans, insisting he would never give up his daughter. The church, meanwhile, would remain until night fell. The father decides to marry his daughter off to a man he knows. Lesleda makes a request. Reassures him not to worry because she is determined to devote her life to serving Shibori. To heighten the drama, the king asks her if she wants to first find out which groom he means. In the end, she said her fiancé would turn out to be a woman. Thoughtfully, they said that this way Rua would always be nearby. But the boy took it badly and got angry. The girl did not understand the last remark. I still didn't understand anything. He walks up to Rui and congratulates the boy that the girl has really fallen in love. The conversation then takes a new turn. She apologizes but cannot fix it, points out that the boy is not the issue because he is truly a hero, and if he becomes her husband, she will know true happiness. He approached the boy and the girl and said that Rui already had a fiancé, CE, and that she was not right for the role. The girl explains that she is also in love with Mr. Vorm, states that the most important thing to her is that her lord is you. Because of Mr. Rai's tireless efforts, she ended up here and must repay him. She will not stand in his way as he builds a happy life. The final slide stresses that this is exactly where we are. Letting go is not the only way to show gratitude. The knight keeps explaining that she cannot simply take him for herself. He claims this trait is common among powerful, influential people. By his own account, 4 wives each gave him a child. Meanwhile, the king still cannot make up his mind. He is sure he can entrust the matter to someone like Rui without hesitation, and he does not intend to involve the young lady Noma because her extraordinary abilities could bring excellent results. States that a true lord should have many wives, and if he refuses that chance, they ask the protagonist if he would agree to this marriage to ensure the country's future prosperity. Convinced that a refusal will make him a devil in their eyes, he expects the people to see him that way. Rua realizes everything has already been decided for him. Everyone appeared at once. Holding the boy close, he said firmly that now the boy was his. He hopes Ria will keep doing good for their country, and plans a formal ceremony in her honor, and claims that the king is very... Averlus hasn't felt such carefree joy in a long time. He now has 2 wives. Meanwhile, everyone in the kingdom, after hearing about the battle, is convinced a true hero has come to their land. But this proved to be just another adventure in an endless string of feats, and his life was deprived of... The word Rua was written in someone's notebook, with a sound like something opening in the background. Says they will walk from... Another guy from their group said he's leaving here now. But the king's children, Leslid's brothers and sister, have returned. And now we will see what happens next. A mild surprise crossed his face as he looked at his wife, who always chose an exclusive style and avoided ordinary clothes. Zeza never acted like a typical girl, because she spent her whole life training hard to become a knight, and she still isn't sure she can be a good wife for such an extraordinary being. She will grant any wish the main character has without hesitation. He cannot grasp what the king gave us. He suggests enjoying a tasty meal, taking a warm bath to refresh, or getting to work. While people knew him, he spent his time in the laboratory with Cheryl, now married, moved here and dove into studying alchemy. Gnome turned a room of the manor into a secret lab where she obsessively experiments with various substances and tests new formulas. The Craftsman's Guild buys up everything it invents, takes it for granted that required presence means something significant exists. The first prince of the Centralian Kingdom, Semantao, approached the boy and asked whether he was the one. Princesses. Ebola thanks Ru for what he has done. Confident he will become king, the second Prince Rauselch also praises the young man, hoping he will stay loyal to his lord. The couple in love watched closely and listened intently. Zamanto insists there is no point in filling commoners' heads with unnecessary talk about the next ruler, since he believes the eldest son of King Leon will become the ruler. The servant tells him that if the young man wants to swear allegiance to someone, he should do it only through her. Ruga has no idea what is happening. Convinced that sons play the decisive role in the struggle for the throne, the prince insists the eldest son should be the heir. The princess explains that their kingdom has already been ruled by princesses, so the throne must belong to the wisest. Her husband and Roswell are already gone. The wife began to explain that all 3 were King Centakilian's true children, and each had a rightful claim to the throne, but ultimately only one would bear responsibility for the family's future. Antotin asked her what was still unclear to her client, since they were arguing about the best way to monitor the body. Your father's noble blood runs in you, and nothing can be done about it. He heard she really tried this time. Ironically, the man says she does not have to be called queen every time. The reality is that half the blood in her veins comes from a homeless woman who does not even know who she is. So a daughter born of a dog remains a dog. Ladza explains she was born to a lower-ranking man, which led to unfair treatment, and she received the honorary title of knight, but is determined to devote all her strength to serving this country and to honor it properly. Her brother tells her it's a great idea, and with that belief, she will fight tirelessly to survive. Like a hunting dog anyone can use, even when it seems useless at first, she expresses sincere thanks to someone. At that moment, Ru suddenly stepped toward him, her face blazing with anger. The first prince grabbed him and lifted him over his head. Ando asked him to let him go. Continuing the conversation with the prince, she said every person should be valued regardless of their background. Ignoring that and comparing people is almost the same as taking away what makes them unique. When the prince asked the guards to back him and eliminate the protagonist, the king stepped in decisively. He replies that his interlocutor showed disrespect, and there is no point in the king apologizing. The kingdom's representative decided to postpone the discussion for now. Zmontano insists that this man be executed because his actions caused irreparable harm to the royal family. He began by explaining that Rua was the kingdom's true hero. Without protagonist's victory over the demons, the country would have been destroyed long ago. Execution was not something he even considered. Nanto plans to handle everyone involved in registering those werewolves and wants to make sure Ruya stays loyal to him like D. King gave him free rein to act as he chose, but more important tasks await him. His son interrupts and immediately begins introducing himself and talking about his life. The princess promised she would never leave him. He asks his wife if they ever left. The kingdom's ruler is about to strip his children of their claim to the throne. Children view this as unacceptable behavior. They couldn't be convinced, but the couple will manage. They deserve to be the future monarchs, and his children do not. Oldu's son explained that because of his unique skills, solid experience, and tireless preparation, he is rightly seen as the most deserving heir, but that is unfair to him. He sarcastically mocked his son's statements protesting injustice. They were determined to find out what had prompted them to return. Boulder's son says this land is his homeland. The daughter adds she was born and raised here, and O says they love this land with all their heart. Why did they abandon her and leave so quickly? The daughter began to refuse it. It is claimed that a demonic and evil influence started all the events. They mercilessly crushed everyone in their path, and people wondered why things were happening that way. They fled because they believed demons would destroy the country, and Zimnato, accepting this as inevitable, left the area, while each still owns their mother's house, and if they returned to that same home, their lives could become true luxury. Each of them had been living at their parents' home until they heard the news of victory over the demons. Their determination to return after that showed either remarkable courage or plain recklessness. In that moment, Rugal understood why the king had made such an unwavering decision. Children say sorry to their... The princess believes that even if the entire kingdom's population is wiped out, preserving at least one member of the royal family gives a real chance to rebuild the country. Even if demons overrun the land and burn it to the ground, a single bloodline is enough to start a new life. She agreed, ready to be branded a shameful woman for leaving her homeland to save the nation, and the couple believes the king's daughter emerged from the situation quite well. What they did was a serious betrayal. Cowards must not be killed. It seems the children want him to wait beside his students. Besides, he has another child, and he is far better than the others. Her mother was a commoner, so including her among the candidates for the throne was thought impossible. The king then took an unusual step and disqualified all the heirs to the throne. She flinched sharply, then turned around immediately. She refused, saying she had been trained her whole life as a knight, not as a ruler, and did not know how to run the country. She says she can master it immediately because she holds the title of knight. That title closely resembles a royal one and becomes a kind of foundation. The children start asking, "Rui, have you been thinking about anything?" She says she needs to discuss this with her husband. So Mr. Raya is no exception. His decision, like the king's choice that upended everything, had unpredictable consequences. Shocked by the news, they could not believe their sister had married the hero who saved the country. If Leslids agrees to become queen, Ray would become the next king. Since the main character, now the Tsar's son-in-law, has every reason to claim the throne, but his thoughts are suddenly interrupted. The first prince insults Leslids again, telling her, "You're mad, born a commoner, and you think you can fool everyone and take the throne." The dream pleads with the father to come to his senses, because Simnanto, who has the blood of both parents, is now ruler of the great southern empire. Still not learning his lesson, he keeps making false statements because he does not realize aristocrats do not call their peers foolish. Now he avoids mentioning kings because they clearly do not allow that behavior. He insists the children carry the blood of nobles from other royal lands. That makes them only half noble, since part of their noble line comes from foreign nobles, and the boys proved it by their actions. Everyone except the youngest seethed with anger. "I request permission to speak briefly." They let him say a few words because he had been silent until then. Firmly, the king said his position was absolutely right, and that the lamb would remain loyal to him to the end. Bella and Zimnanto were stunned by what they had found. He admitted that as the second prince, his chances of inheriting the throne were tiny from the start. The guys realized that at first he had thought of himself as more than an ordinary man. The chapter opens with Rosella telling Rue that rumors about him are already sweeping the kingdom. People say his power is boundless, and no one rivals the hero. As soon as the youngest son returned home, all kinds of stories began to spread, and Rue instantly sensed something wrong behind that gentle smile. A story about the boy with no scars. Rhea starts the discussion of this topic with her youngest son, and the king's son-in-law clearly agrees with the boy known around the world. The second prince insists this cannot be. Lesled's husband, chosen to inherit the throne first for his talents and achievements, actually lacks the necessary skills. Undoubtedly, Ruia became famous across the country after he almost single-handedly defeated a demon. He truly takes pride in being married to the Lord Jesus. The second prince may be right, Ruyapana. Skills are the most valuable asset in the world. When someone masters a skill, they can easily claim any high position. No one can take a king's throne without a strong set of skills. The protagonist dislikes people who condemn others while insisting their actions are driven by good intentions, and he still cannot discern the other side's true motives. This step shows he intends to use the opportunity to support brave people, but Ruria still cannot understand the true meaning of his words. One of the speakers asked, "What level of adventure do you represent?" The hero replied coldly, "D Royal." People asked why the Adventurers Guild gave Rue such a meager reward. The king wants to issue a new decree immediately, but the youngest son says it cannot be done now. He sees it as a great idea, since someone with the right skills can easily get us the rank we need. Master Rose is convinced the rank will soon be ours. Rua wondered if he wanted to raise his own Rua. Prihodi sincerely wants to raise his rank. Ruia promises to do her best and use every opportunity to grow. Thank you for watching. He has no idea whether he is facing honest advice or a clever trick. Now he cannot marry Leslidson until he reaches a certain rank. If that does not happen, she will refuse to inherit the throne. That gives the children even more time. This whole situation benefits only the two of us. He says Russell's attitude appeals to him because Russell kept praising him, but the man was sure that if he denied him the throne, his anger would boil over and he would lose control. He points out that it's absurd, because his attention always goes back to those things. The next day, the party was already gathered at the Adventurers Guild. Roya announces she must be promoted immediately to the rank of experienced adventurer. His strong desire to succeed came from a few clear reasons. First, appearing beside Arankin during his famous 20 seconds would be a big advantage. And second, the chance to marry Leslie strongly appealed to him. Confident in her fiancé, the young woman has already started planning the wedding. The adventure ambassador announces the hero has reached rank B, and suddenly a quack echoes. The royal palace's special request to exterminate the demons was approved by the Adventure Council, and they decided to raise its priority. Chanu was also awarded the rank of B, which helped save 200 soldiers. Surprised, he asks if moving directly from one rank to another is normal, since promotions usually require completing a series of quests and gradually getting stronger. The master begins shouting that no one is to blame for his extraordinary achievements. Slaying demons is a task for gods alone. Then he expects extra hugs. Ruia apologizes. He asks why they raised him to that rank when it is clearly not enough. No one among the S-rank barriers can stand against an army of demons alone. Vondate says the council is run by stubborn old men, so they only gave him beer. Feeling treated unfairly, she suggests destroying the entire council, and the protagonist thinks she just showed up, but her words really annoy him. Earning a rank is a major achievement, but extraordinary feats like defeating Veyer that require an S rank are in a different league. So various evaluation systems were created to reveal a candidate's true potential, and the exam held every few years gives a complete check of all required skills. Sometimes candidates. He asks when the next exam will be held. Diet informs him the next exam is scheduled for next month and will take place in just 5 days. They lost that opportunity because the next one would come only in 2 or 3 years. They had no chance left. He knows he must pass the exam on his first try and worries how tough it will be. And Gnome plans to take the same test. A calm, striking young woman whose compassion stood out. Side by side with the boy, she discovered a spirit of adventure and grows with him as an equal. No one gains mastery of alchemy by accident. Diet relies on the boy and plans to write a recommendation letter based on the description. Amid the chaos, She did not even hide that she was there. Rua realizes that if the local guild had not been led by a young woman, his path would have been much harder, and he thanks her sincerely for the tasty meal. She then went to her guildmaster, saying she waits for them patiently every day and urging them to climb higher to show her entirely new, amazing things. And the young man's progress is remarkably fast. I'll handle all the arrangements. The guys just need to show up at the designated meeting point on the right. People say everything changes every time. This time, events unfold in the south, in the kingdom of Rubrum. Vigia searches her memory for where she heard the name. The girls are eager and ready to move forward, finishes its plans, then prepares for the next episode. A few days later, they arrive in the kingdom of Rui. The kingdom's warm climate helps it prosper. Its center is formed by several port cities where active sea trade provides steady prosperity. The vast sea's deep blue is captivating and inspiring. She is thrilled to see this for the first time. This is Ria's first time by the sea, and even the wind is full of new, unfamiliar scents. When Abinyan Rui appears, she seems like a spirit able to unleash a disaster that would instantly wipe out tens of thousands, and others like her live in the city's deepest corners. He asks whether the devil has ties to magical spirits. She replies that those who truly resonate with her are always nearby. Some people, for no apparent reason, rush into deadly fights and drag everyone nearby into them. Clearly, she can cause real trouble, and the boy is glad to have the chance to be her friend. Argues that without the ability to wield the ring's power, such a phenomenon is impossible. This is actually the second batch of printed materials, and every time he crosses from one country to another, all his achievements are wiped out. Now he has no way to return. Still unaware of how the boy tricked his way into the recommendation, he now faces his own exam and cannot afford any mistakes. Learning that a young girl led the Centracilian Kingdom's guild, he immediately began to humiliate her, seeing her as still immature. He can still tolerate insults aimed at him, but cannot accept Lane being targeted by humiliating remarks. Because of his many achievements at home, the man was called Ra. His accomplishments are deliberately presented in simple language to highlight his remarkable abilities. They say the young man forged an official document and now faces prison, and he plans to see for himself how harshly this country punishes criminals, and to confront the guild leader over who made such an absurd document. She pours her potion on the man and orders him to apologize sincerely. To reveal his true nature, the boy does not disturb his particular mood. The girl tells the man she plans to take the second Aranku exam. If he had read the papers carefully, he would have known what he was looking at. The girl turned out to have skills matching the true king of alchemy. Her potential was rated SSS. Clearly the ideal candidate for the exam, he immediately began preparing the necessary materials. He doesn't care that Rui-san has no abilities. Only a few people without abilities were recognized, leaving Rio surprised as he watched his own actions. Official procedures will begin soon. If in the future the reputation from creating a circle of highly skilled specialists had already spread during the exam he oversaw, then remember that he failed to recognize someone with legendary abilities, and in the future that person's name will go down in history as a leading figure of this world. Of course, that's too much. A district filled with monsters waits for its hero. If Ruius faces them alone, everyone will instantly know his day has come. Convinced he was not capable of such acts, he would have realized if he had succeeded. He is genuinely happy because the man said it himself. Ray had heard words like that here before. Now I am sad she agreed to the deal, and they will show that brainless beast their power. She apologizes to him, hoping he understands she had no choice but to act that way. Laurel insists it's natural because he saved her life. However, she still hasn't received even a drop of what Rui did for her. Worried that Magus might gain new status effects that would cause a martyr's death in a few days, the boy wanted to know what effect that would have. He feels relieved because the man's life was not in danger. Within minutes, they reached a vast plain on the outskirts of the kingdom of Rubrum, a wide open space that impressed with its scale and lived up to its reputation as a battlefield. He urges you not to be shy and to speak your mind. It cuts through them quickly. Be ready. In anticipation, they argued heatedly, surrounded by a light haze created by a group. He has no idea what's happening. Slowly, the scent began to enchant everyone, drawing them into the depths of the sea. In other words, right now, Raudaganist knows he will have to beat each opponent alone. One of the boys asks about how many this move can charm. A pack of creatures kept closing in on them. said Opinion Light. These half-human creatures take on a vague, slimy form. One demoness even senses the undead among them. No wizard gets the proper potion. Ruga asks how many of these monsters there really are. 200 Abenian replicas. The hero confidently assures everyone that everything will be fine because this boy will defeat every enemy, and they were brought here for a single purpose. Losing even one will bring disaster to the city. Abinion promises he will not allow such a mistake. Even if the unexpected happens, the city that humiliated him deserves to vanish. He says it should be wiped from the face of the earth. Decisively starts attacking the swift monsters coming from... In a flash, he twisted his hands and a small whirlpool appeared, mercilessly destroying the months. Rich was already under a sinister curse. The next day, the protein was finally destroyed. Wildmaster was already bald and asked with interest what had happened here and why so many months had passed. He started carefully checking the monsters' bodies and was surprised to see who was in the room. The guide even defeated monsters that normally provide useful materials. The special product of his city was missing with no clear explanation. It seemed possible the man's curiosity caused it. He says the responsibility lies with the man, not with him, because the man's lack of confidence forced him to accept it. Smiling, he said, "That's how you should have said it from the start." Gnome and Abenian had already gathered materials from 5,000 monsters and met the local head of the craftsmen, who assigned all the tasks to them so she did not have to do anything herself. An event will take place in a few days, so use the time to prepare and stay productive. She plans to find out what previous exams were like. Yet no one showed surprise when they looked at her. The playlist shows that the guy and the girls seem terrible, clearly due to the monster's influence. He begins sniffing their bodies, but they do not suspect anything. Maybe they are already used to each other's smells. Witnesses, said passers-by, unable to bear the persistent odor, reacted by calling it an unbearable stench, and Rua was convinced the cause was Devilis' friend. Right before their eyes is the answer. A beautiful seaside resort of the kingdom of Ru appears before us. Growing up inland, he never imagined swimming in the sea could be so unforgettable. The boy is wearing a swimsuit that looks like it was made for a vacation. After putting on his swim trunks and getting ready to go, he could not understand why there was no one around. He apologizes for keeping him waiting. She models her swimsuit for Nelman. He studies her closely, assuming she is really wearing plain underwear, and even says she wants to feel young, like a little girl, before getting married. Gnome was quite shy, and the seller assured her it was just an ordinary swimmer. She could not believe her eyes. And at that moment she realized that all the other girls were also in swimsuits. He says he must uncover the secrets of her heart because she worked so tirelessly and his attention is now on someone else. She bought a swimsuit to get Ru's attention. It was a real challenge because she wanted to win his approval. The Rodiganist tells her, "If I admit it looks great on you, we'll see if you accept it as part of yourself." Unsure how to react, but still offers sincere thanks. At that moment, she transformed into a swimsuit made of half-spirit, half-physical ectoplasm that could quietly change its shape, and she had a special device that let her make those changes instantly. He says, "If you openly seduce Ru like that, he will certainly be yours. But if you continue the same way in a play, things could go wrong." The girls decided that since they were at the beach, they had to make the most of the day. They led the protagonist to the shore, talking about how they would spend this unforgettable day. Angry, he asked if they had come here just to relax, saying the exam was near and they had a lot to do. Ultimately, they had the great time at the beach, enjoying every moment of their vacation. The exam took place at the central arena, built by the king's order and known as the Warrior's Paradise. This structure was built for ceremonial events in the kingdom of Rubrim. In the past, bloody battles brought genuine pleasure. Everyone. No one knows when the familiar stereotype of the oddball with no abilities will reappear. In that instant, they treat him as someone with no abilities. Rua believes he has disappeared. Great men say a new eccentric has appeared who does not know his place. They smile quietly, sure this ability will open the way to adventure. Egoists claim this rank does not suit him. They say he was spoiled in the class where he tried to advance despite his limited abilities. Stay calm, the gnome is starting to pay. Rodiganus says he doesn't really have the skills needed, but that's no reason to give up. No matter the circumstances, we should accept them as they are. Men note his exceptional courage. Uncle says that if Ray still believes persistence will get his affairs in order, He is not mature yet. Arank's plan cannot be based solely on his unshakable resolve. He has no idea how he plans to reach his goal, and that is terrible. The three keep reminding him he's not ready, but Rue doesn't care. While it glares at the men, a girl with an unreadable expression quietly watches everything. He got a stamina drink, an eye tonic, an energy potion, a refreshing elixir, an anti-petrification potion, and throat medicine. The boy's hands are filled only with poles. They keep making fun of him, saying that even with that support he is not guaranteed to pass the Aranka exam, since it is coming up very fast. They noticed another little boy, and thinking he was a Sema, decided to put him on the right path. He thanks the men because the welcome before the exams is about to begin. At that moment, an authoritative voice tells all exam candidates to assemble in front of the government building. A huge crowd was steadily moving toward the government building. An atmosphere of intense tension settled around. A new rank was presented to the adventurer, led by a curator who oversees the promotion exam and is a sitting member of the guild council known as Unbeatable Shield. This curator, Gris, appeared on the screen and was known in Arang's adventures as Iron Fork. The narrator returns to the stage with the adventurer Arang. Nick named the labyrinth guide Sene. A saber-toothed girl named. Everything depicted is marked by the familiar Cure greeting. Beside the speaker, 4 people stand behind the podium whom everyone aspires to become. He hopes many of today's newcomers will reach their level. He knows that soon people will view him the same way they view the modern Arang adventure. Tells him it may turn out that neither of them will change. The handler shoves a gag into her, insulting her by calling her toothy. We thought so, but the young man says he has one more word to say before. Zemnanto-sama was the first prince of the Centracilian kingdom, which surprised Ruo. He urges calm, saying this young man is clearly the most promising candidate for the Centracilian throne. Members of the Rubrim kingdom may wonder why a foreign prince is here. There is no point in doubting him. The young man has deep ties to these matters. In the end, his second mother is the fiancée CE of Kyrian's king, known for fighting centaurs, and she once ruled the Rubrud kingdom, so the Rubrud king is his uncle and he gave the boy a chance to see their world. He remembers where he first heard stories about this kingdom. Manto is certain there is not a trace of good on the horizon. Most importantly, people who were given low grades from the start will not be able to take even the first step toward change. Discussions continued on the topic. This applies to people living in less favorable conditions. It is absolutely essential that they get a medical checkup. If selling reproduction secures substantial financial support, they will readily help cover the remaining expenses. Relentlessly, he bribes his guardian with promises of a brilliant future, but Rue hears every word clearly because he has $80 million. Now the main character is sure he cannot pass this exam. Apparently, he was brought here by a mistake of the guild's regional master, while the other fully counts on his participation, and both the prince and the king whispered this quietly. He says that if you've decided to act, you should try the scheme. Omai doesn't even realize who her master is talking to. Mantatel always lives up to expectations. He does not understand the purpose of checking the absent, but at that same moment it becomes clear that a bright future awaits him. Wishing her luck, he said his name would also soon appear in the announcement. The list was complete, but Rio's name still did not appear. Claims the others have no abilities, and the adventure clearly proves this. From birth, they carried the mark of unbreakability, unfortunate wanderers abandoned by God. Though few in number, they always find their way here. Lacking any real abilities, they somehow received a B rank, but that does not entitle you to the same. Under the rules, they are allowed to participate, and the audience actively supports them. He reports that since the Adventurers Guild appeared, no one without the needed abilities has gained a rank. And the rankings show it was the same before and will stay the same. Even those who failed the trials and seem incapable want to see those who will rise above them because of their great powers, and that could help the whole Adventurers Guild. So leave this place before their bodies suffer harm. He knows he will definitely miss the exit. Rhodogonius says he will not give up because his initial goal is to capture a rank. The adventurer is assigned to challenge the impossible itself. Audience members tirelessly support each other. He can't understand why this thing always gives off a sense of urgent problems. Which exact special exam is meant? According to his testimony, there seems to be a sane man among them. Acting like a strict examiner, he orders that anyone who takes even one step will be immediately disqualified. The narrator reassures them, saying that falling into a pit is just one of 4 dangers still waiting for them. Thrown coldly and calmly into the abyss, the protagonist exchanged brief but expressive looks with Albion and was finally convinced. This passage skillfully reveals the character's individual traits through concise, content-rich sentences. Everyone suddenly began asking what was happening here. Someone without special abilities also said it was an adventure. Rodriguez says his ability caused a breach in space. It is a degenerate point. The others present are stunned by what is happening. The rule of acquisition is to do everything immediately. Those deemed incapable get a backup exam where they must escape a dungeon. If they beat the trial, that guy will see that even people without special abilities have potential. They have unlimited time, but without resolve, the test can still end. All this happens under Sentanzi's watchful guidance, and if anyone wants to give up, they can always count on his help. We still give people a chance at life, even if they did not properly fulfill their duties. I'm ready to get to work. They do have real hearts. Here is the pride of those who don't even have a single crumb. The men who met us and gave us elixirs want to carry on the same way, because by joining forces they can fully overcome these difficulties. Angry at not having the expected strength, they did not hide their displeasure. The men said they had never promised such abilities. This was already their 7th orang. At first glance, they looked like ordinary bullies, but in truth, after pain and suffering few could endure, they still made it this far, Revia thought. Confident they can stand firm without natural talent, they have spent 20 devoted years on this work and are driven by unshakable determination. He asks the billion if she can hear. She replies that she hears him, and it seems they have arrived in a completely strange place. The she-devil is already waiting. Rotagonist says that's not the issue. He will try to resolve it himself, and she must continue to support Noan. Reports say Rua is overly cautious like you. Since none of us are at our best, she recommends using the group watch feature to watch it live. It is the girl standing next to the corpse. The person running the process smiles as they mercilessly kill people. He realized it was just a simple selection of candidates. The task was clearly to endure the relentless pressure of tests. Confident in Ria's spirit, he thinks they will overcome every difficulty, but it's unclear if such spirits actually exist. Purrs and announces a great catch. Shiger, who can transform into a panther, notes this girl causes a lot of trouble. The girl thinks Shiger is very cute and wants to pet her. Shiger shows her powers but regrets that today's task was to make a loud noise. Starting to transform into a beast, she is already halfway through her metamorphosis and tells the hero's fiancé OC that her chances even of a cat appearing are extremely slim. They are going to defeat her, so the girl will do it for you. She calls them the worst, stressing that people cannot be judged only by whether they have certain abilities. Ryo-san is several times stronger than the others, yet they openly ignore him and walk past him. They have no right to call themselves examiners, and their motives are unclear. Her speech makes no sense, and she may be getting dumber because of her current state. Realizing it, she begins to move toward. The girl considers herself brave because she dared to challenge the established hierarchy. Foam filled her mouth, and it felt like a sharp knife had pierced her nose. Ria thinks the pain came from a mix of several big events. When transformed into a creature of wild strength, her sight, hearing, and smell become exceptionally sharp. In other words, her reaction to potions. The radiator is still in poor condition. The stimulating scent grows more intense. Once again, the potion hurtles toward you relentlessly. Guardians shout at her, ordering her to improve her beast form so she no longer reacts so strongly to smells that now pose a threat. She ignores the boy and follows her animal instincts. Note that the girl, following her instincts, tried to dodge the potion and fell into a trap. She underestimated her opponent, whose powers are far stronger. What exactly is in the bottle they are showing? This potion makes the orange literally dissolve. Big thanks to Gnome for her ruthlessness. It finally finished her off. The heroine pulls out a nail-studded club, and others ask how even this weapon could be useful. The film replies, "I just bought it there." Due to an alchemical effect, at the moment of contact, the girl becomes 10 times stronger, and her mass appears to increase by about 300 times. Make sure everything looks completely awful after the girl's actions. She probably missed everything because of her dark glasses. She begs not to be killed because she does not want him to crush her like a grenade. Abinion is pleased with her. They're clearly angry as they watch events unfold. Ultimately, the ability to become the Abyss has specific requirements and is governed by a rank system. It cannot match the power of the SSS Rift. steps up to Gnome and tells her she has successfully passed the first stage of the trials. Thrilled that such a talented girl with remarkable abilities had passed the trial, he proposed a duel to celebrate her joining the ranks of Orangu adventurers. Immediately, she stepped in and repeated the words the girl had just said. She tells her that before gaining her powers, she experienced incredible moments in life. Before she gained her abilities, her life had been nothing but cruelty, until one day, everything changed. The meeting gave her an incredible happiness that far exceeded even the Alchemist King's magical powers. She has no idea what she's talking about. I can't stop watching Gnome Grove. Her master has ensured she will have no worries for the near future, and if anything happens, she will resolutely make her enemies see how distorted their world is. He chose to focus only on his own experience. Returning to the ranks of adventurers despite lacking special skills, they confidently continue their journey. The uncle advises them to slow down a bit, because without proper stamina, the adventure can quickly wear them out. Now let's move on to the next episode. He always stays last to avoid a surprise blow from behind. He was surprised to find these men so reliable. At the very beginning, thanks to the flawless defense of these strong men, no one was hurt, and the protagonist directly asked one of them why he had taken command and why he wasn't acting naturally. The rear guard was so filled with hatred for the game that he began to feel its bitter effect in every cell of his body. Ruya asks if he understands how harsh this world is for people without abilities. Even without abilities, they will surely receive their reward. He started an irritating laugh again, sarcastically saying that to get into Orang Adventure you had to be a complete idiot. Undoubtedly, they want to join Orang Adventure. One told another he was drinking water too often. In the dungeon, it is important to stick to the set intervals for drinking. Nothing can be done. He's already decided to split his flight. Now they are all allies, so everyone can count on each other's support, unleashing their fierce firepower at the right moment. Fast pace, yet the heroes slow down when needed and move on calmly. The main character cares about only one thing, his own life. Ahead they found an exit, but it might not be the real way forward. You find it strange because there is usually light at the end. He asks you to wait because something went wrong, but the man keeps moving forward without concern. He remembers that this place's power seems disturbed, so the passage to the exit is blocked on one side. The place the adventurers ended up was identical to where they had been first thrown. The smiling man made sure they did not miss this unforgettable experience. If they lack courage, they do not deserve the chance to take the A rank exam. Still, he wants to stress he will accept anyone who wants to serve. A person almost gives up, but unexpectedly finds the strength to fight on. Retreat also requires courage. They plan to be the first to leave this place, and then appeal to the guild council, claiming the test was unfair. For now, that plan seems the best option. Abinion appeared and seemed about to say something important. He said he would be eager to hear from her. The second round begins, and some have already used up their strength and reached their limits. Their courage shows because, despite weakness, they are still here. With limited resources, treat this test as a training session and aim to surface first. He gave a detailed lecture, and Ryu understood every nuance, and his analysis, which indicates an intention to travel to. They said the condition was too badly damaged. They don't realize how difficult it is to destroy the dungeon's core. It sits in the deepest parts, and though we don't know exactly how far it extends underground, we can confidently say it is at least 20 floors deep. The protagonist keeps hitting the floor at a steady pace, instantly descending to the lowest level. In this situation, a bright idea is inseparable from hard work. A striking, defiant mood inspires them all, and afterward everyone wants to come together as one group. One man also finds a way out of the situation. With each blow, he sank deeper and deeper. At the bottom, he saw a strange object that looked like a crystal, a new clue in his search. As he neared the core, a quiet sound caught his attention and seemed to warn of inevitable destruction. When he surfaced, the boys were genuinely glad to see him. Asks them if they have already gone outside. The dungeon owner says, "You cannot understand what has already happened." The protagonist is indifferent because he gave everything to overcome the trials. The examiner announces that the dungeon has been completely destroyed because it belonged to the country of the ruiners. Countries use underground sites to mine a wide range of resources. The whole city's economy will stop, causing a massive disaster. Dungeon gun. Many jobs have disappeared and all the local adventurers are left without work. The curator asks the team how they plan to take responsibility for the hundreds of ordinary people affected by their actions. In this case, the proteinist is ready to respond seriously. Should they take responsibility? An adventurer addresses the examiner as Joker, and the examiner replies that they destroyed the dunes. He claims he destroyed the core himself, though the experimenter forced him into that plan. Locking them in a cell, he ordered the examiner to find a way out, and by following only his orders, they finally escaped. The curator said that despite their limited abilities, they managed to find a way to complete the task. Consumed by rage, he fails to see how his words lead to the destruction of fools. He remembers saying those words. Then we'll pay this high price for this magnificent day. Venturers point at him in a friendly way and confidently say he will do it. Since this man acts as the exam proctor, his actions show he prepared a demonstration solution, and by using his power to manipulate space, he closed the dungeon exit, so the only way out is to break through the wall, and if the task were impossible, his qualification as proctor would be seriously in doubt. Now is the time for him to act like his role requires and show everyone what taking responsibility means. Ventura began to mock him, accusing him of forcing someone to take the exam under absurd conditions, and of fleeing responsibility when things got serious, and they discussed where he could defend the honor of class orang. The curator says he doesn't care at all. At first he opposed it, and the boy refused to become their guardian. Circumstances forced him to step in, so it feels like all the blame falls on his shoulders. As chief examiner, he says he bears full responsibility. He tells him the whole story, adding that all the trouble was caused by the guild's poor organization of this pointless experiment. He insists he owns nothing. The venturous pause to decide their next move. The examiner suggested consulting someone with deeper knowledge to ask the question. Efforts that lack proper skill are not responsible for the diamond's destruction. 2 more attempts were shown. Once they identified them, they realized the boys had failed. They claimed this year's exam takers were real cowards because they trusted only one person among all the participants, and Rua cut them off, stressing that they agreed to the arrangement. Rhodogonis kept talking about passing the extra exam, but his listeners now insisted he talk about the main exam. This is incredibly funny. They really think people without the right skills can stand up to them. By the way, I heard the one who ran the extra exam stayed with us. I looked around at the others, puzzled as I tried to figure out what was happening. Rhodogonist claims that during the exam he completely destroyed the dungeon, and even Santine himself ended up in the ruins. This shows the chief administrator, the man sitting opposite, will take full responsibility. Ruyeo managed to destroy the dungeon that had seemed an impossible challenge. Curators rushed to confirm whether the dungeon had been destroyed. The Range Lord warns Ruiyu, if the dungeon is truly destroyed, he will strike so hard Ruiyu will be sent into the air completely naked. But if it is only a bluff, well done. On his return, the man reported that everything was destroyed. Tells him that, if he does not object, the worthless man can explain to them what is happening. A story about what happened. He thinks it's false because he can't accept that someone without special abilities would dare such acts. They plan to arrest Proto-Jin. He points out that the other man contradicts himself, first saying he does not recognize him and then threatening arrest. That man ignores the remark. Interrupting, he insists they must understand the importance of the dungeon that belongs to the kingdom of Rubrum and is once again under threat. The Adventure Guild will be asked to pay back a huge sum, and later it will be unable to find an arena for trials because it will have to take full responsibility. It was the examiners who allowed this situation to unfold. The man immediately lowers his voice. Grabbing the hero by the throat, he said that, given what had happened, the only way out was to put all the blame on him and get rid of the boy. If it worked out, the head examiner could atone for his mistake by saving the life of a man who was incapable of anything. In that case, he would stop being completely useless. He remembers the conversation with the beat. He is convinced that powerful spirits like her can create what people call the core of decay. A fateful meeting took place in a castle that resembled a diamond at its core, and 5 minutes later, unexpected events unfolded in the very heart of Maeve. If Ray wants, Devilis can create a new dungeon core right after one is destroyed, since she was willing to grant all of Ray's wishes. The protagonist shows that attitude, knowing why every time he says, "Don't worry, leave everything on the ground," the people around him grow uneasy. Titel accuses the examiners, saying they deliberately set absurd test conditions to keep out people who lack the required skills. But even meeting those unrealistic demands is not a strong enough argument. With his outstanding abilities, He can now handle the problem, instead of just making unchecked comments. He calls that guy a freak and more. He persuades him to give it to you. They need to place full responsibility on him, so he must deal with all the consequences. At last, the clumsy adventurer's swords rose and lunged straight at the examiner. Steel exoskeleton ability activated. He forms metal fibers and uses them to make flawless armor. That is why they call him Iron. Rue says the young man can be proud to have died at a woman's hands. Struck a blow that rang like a call for justice. He cannot understand the purpose of his armor. He collects all the metal from the neighborhood because his fist is as hard as metal itself, and only one thing can oppose him. With his powerful senses, Ruya tirelessly honed his physique. A barely noticeable pause came, and Pruding's blow immediately met resistance. It shot back instantly with stunning speed. He flew and even lost his trowel. He lost, and his partner refuses to accept it. Claims that to pass the first part of the exam, you apparently had to defeat one of them, and he actually did. The main hero must officially defeat him as the most powerful of all so he can pass the Arang adventure trial. The examiner is furious. Impressive power makes him certain Rhea cannot beat him, even though he lacks that special ability. The question is whether this man is the strongest among all these little brothers. Someone gives the order to begin and can't help admiring her resolve because she is ready to do it for meet a member of the Adventurers Guild Council chosen by Stamara. If they officially hold the rank A exam here, then it is not a place of chaos and bloodshed, but a place of order and discipline. He asks who that is. A child stands before him, and the examiner warns her to be careful because a council is against her. That remarkable young woman, a council member who unconditionally oversees all adventure guilds worldwide. Not sure how truly powerful she is, he still chooses to bow to her while Mario's deputy stresses the act is optional. Ultimately, they are just parasites who are nominally in charge of them, but actually ruin their lives. Ryu is surprised by her so-called modesty and is convinced she might not be like that at all. Last Sots. Why has he looked so anxious for the last few minutes? Has he been through something really serious? Destroying the dungeon was never part of his plan, and he realized the council could no longer avoid the looming disaster. So with the situation critical, he blamed an inept person for the crime and immediately moved to force her to apologize to the Red King. Continuing his speech, he sincerely says he deeply regrets that Deputy Bistamario was forced to appear in court in person. He asks if this man is the exam supervisor. If so, he should be held responsible for everything that happened. He keeps talking about a condition that cannot be met unless the dungeon is destroyed. Rhea listens to the spells and looks unexpectedly surprised. She continues, stressing that this is a typical male prank. Bistamariel asks Ruby if he really destroyed the dungeon. Ruby confirms that he has enough money. The girl asks how he did it, and the hero explains he dropped to the lowest point and then struck without hesitation. A council member asks him again about the strike that hit the very core. Ruia replies, if he doubts it, let him not believe. But the girl says she only wanted to be sure, and he clearly hit the target. The exam supervisor is responsible for running it. The test was organized without the board members' permission, even though they initiated the procedure. Ill-prepared efforts lacking necessary skill stunned everyone and left them in complete disbelief. Mario had heard nothing about organizing a supplementary exam for those who lack the necessary abilities.